Okay. Hey, folks. Apologies. My bad. I'm 4 minutes late. So this is what we're gonna do because I know I said on one of these other lives that when I'm late, we'll find a way to compensate. So here's the thing. All right, you have to be the first person to send me the answer via Instagram. All right, I'm gonna type my Instagram in the chat for y'all to send it to. Okay. Now, let me tell you what we're doing here. Since I was a few minutes late, all right, it's typed in the chat. It's Give Me a Beat, GIMMIEABEAT. All right, I'm going to give one trivia question. The first person to give me the correct answer to my Instagram, you will receive a $20 gift card. All right, that will be my apology for being late. There's only going to be one winner, and it's going to be the first person who comes to my device. I would have done it in the chat, but remember when we used to do trivia? And we did that trivia round, and I didn't realize that when everybody has a different connection, that we're all seeing something different. So I was seeing people come in as this person's first, that person's first, and then somebody else on their screen's like, no, I was first. So I was like, we ain't fighting today. All right. So let me see. I'm going to pull up a trivia question. Let me see. Y'all know I write down tons of these. All right. Let's see. Let me think of a good one here. All right, we're gonna keep this with some Black history. All right, again, be the first person to send me the correct answer to my Instagram, $20 gift card. All right, the question is, what was the average lifespan of somebody who was living under the system of convict leasing? Meaning, once they got into convict leasing, how many years on average would they live? That's the question. Be the first person to shoot it to my Instagram, and you will have your $20 gift card when you wake up in the morning. Okay, that's what we're doing here. All right. Again, you got to shoot it to my Instagram. Give me a beat. GIMMIEABEAT. That's where it has to go. Not to this chat because this chat don't be. Okay, I'm getting answers, but I don't see the answer yet. Y'all are fast. All right. So again, once incarcerated or locked into the convict leasing system, what was the average lifespan of somebody under that system, right? That's the question. Not what is the average age of the person, but what is the lifespan once they're in that system? Once they're in, how many years do they live on average? Convict leasing system. All right. Still don't have the right answer yet here. It's all right, kids. Y'all numbers are too high. Y'all give me some really, really big numbers. This is y'all making convict leasing sound like it wasn't too bad. All right. I'm gonna tell you, it's not a very high number. I'll say that. All right. This will give a minute for people to get on while we do this anyway. All right. Still don't got the right answer yet. These numbers are too big. Y'all are in the 50s and everything. 50 is too high. Way too high. Same with the 30s. All right. To the Instagram. All right. Somebody is very close, but not quite. Somebody is very close. Again, I'm only looking at the answer that's coming to my phone. I'm not looking at the chat because everybody's chat comes in at a different time, and y'all gonna fight me if I pick a winner. So I'm like, go by what's on the Instagram. All right, let's see what we getting here. Oh, y'all blowing up the Instagram today. We're getting closer, people. We're getting closer. Don't have it yet. Let me see. Oh damn, y'all sending too many messages. Okay. Nope. Getting closer. Come on, kids. Oh, this makes me work. Okay, Danny Marie, you got it. 7 years. That's the average lifespan of somebody once they were in the convict leasing system. Danny Marie, I pushed the little like thing on yours. Congratulations, that's your $20. All right. Okay, so that's kind of going to be the move the next time I'm late on a live. That'll make me be on time. Okay, man. All right. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Happy to see everybody. I'm gonna do a few quick hellos. I'm gonna keep it moving. What up, Joe Mario? Joe Mario, I would have gave it to you, but because Joe Mario did say 7, but I was going specifically with the Instagram. What up, D Bradford? I have to respond to your email. I did see it, by the way. I did not forget about you. What up, Avocado? Oh, Avocado Queen is on. Oh Lord, it's going down tonight. Listen, if there are 2 people on this live that do not play any games, it's the person whose username is Queen, and there's Avocado Queen. Them 2 play no games when it comes to blackness. I love it. Right? All right. What up, Kurt Tarian? What up? What up, Black Queen? Let's see. What up, Soul Storm? What up, Dev? Julian Steve, what up? Hey, folks, what up, Kayla? Vicky V, what's up? All right, I got to keep it moving, guys. Tyler Hackner, what's up, everybody? Good seeing everybody. All right, let's jump into it because we have so much to cover. I really don't think we're going to get through it all. So I'm going to try to be as descriptive as I can. Y'all know I like to go deep into some of these conversations. By the way, because there's a lot of new people who have been coming, these lives do have timestamps, okay? As soon as the live is finished and it's uploaded, I normally have the timestamps within the first 20 minutes of the live completing. So for those who do not want to sit through a 2 or 3 hour live, which is understandable, utilize the timestamps in the description, right? Just hit description and there's a whole segment with all of the segments that we're talking about with what section of the video that you can find it in. And you just click that number and it takes you right there, okay? Just to give some clarity. All right, I got a few announcements. I know I feel like this is like church announcements, but sorry, it's a lot going on. All right, first thing, the book club. Now, I know I was supposed to put the choices out. The choices will come out on Sunday, and then you guys can vote, and we'll go from there. So ignore the countdown ticker on my website. I think it says that the actual book club starts on the 30th. It's not starting on the 30th. We're just going to finally have our selection, right? And then we'll go from there. Just give me some grace. It's been a very, very busy month, if you haven't noticed. So, yeah, there's that. Also, Friday, I'll be appearing on the Jigaset Radio podcast. I'll include the link in this description as well. That I don't even remember what I said in that podcast because we filmed that a few months back. So who knows what we're talking about on there. But that was a fun one. That was a really cool one to do, right? That's the one time. No, I'm not going to share that part, but it's a fun one. So that comes out on Friday. I'll make sure to include the link in this description. All right, few other things. Pull over so I can hit you like I've shared before. We just had some really, really dope news. Like this is our third festival we've gotten into. So this is for the Michaud Film Festival. And the cool thing is for everybody who has been asking, when can we see it? When can we see it? This is the opportunity for anybody in the world to see it because it's going to be screening virtually at the Michaud Film Festival. Now on October 1st, I will post a link on the community tab that gives insight about how you can watch our specific show because it's going to be screening on Apple TV and Roku TV, right? And there's specific blocks that the different films are playing in. So on October 1st, they release when the blocks are coming out and what's in what block. So once October 1st hits, I will happily share it in the community tab and it will give you all the insight about how you can purchase tickets to that festival and see what it is we're doing, right? And by the way, I do want to say thank you because again, part of this wouldn't have happened had it not been for you all. Because again, this was a project. I'm not going to say how much it cost, but it was an arm and a leg, right? And so we needed additional support. And there were some of you who supported our Kickstarter campaign. So thank you to all of you. Every single person who donated, your names are also in the credits on our, when it gets to the end of the movie. So shout out to all of you guys. And again, it was a very humbling experience because you guys know I'm not someone to come on here and ask for a whole lot, right? I just don't want people to think that I'm a scammer. So I'm really sketchy sometimes about coming on here and sharing certain things. And I remember me and the director, my writing partner, we were butting heads because I was like, I am not going on YouTube asking those people for money because they're going to think I'm a scammer, right? And we almost didn't have a pullover so I can hit you because I was not making that announcement video. Took everything in me to do it. And then I had to do a second one because when I did the first one, she was like, you look like you're being held hostage. Can you at least sound excited? But it is a thing where it can be scary to go in front of, I think at the time we were like at 50,000, go in front of like 50,000 people and say, hey, I'm working on this project. I need help, right? It's the Leo in me. We want to just do everything. We don't ever want to ask for help. So I'm appreciative of every person who helped to finance this project. And it's kind of dope that, this is where it's gotten. And it's really dope that we're also in deadline. I don't know if you saw the post, but my name is now in an article with Viola Davis and Michael Ealy and Morris Chestnut and Lupita, which is really, really cool. So thank you to everybody who has supported that project and stayed the course because it did take a good minute. It wasn't something we were able to do overnight, but I'm proud of the project. I love all of the staff, the crew, the cast, everybody. This is our third festival. It probably won't be our last. Like we want to milk this movie well into 2025 and we have other things we're working on. So I can't wait to share what else comes down the pipeline when it's time. Okay. Okay. I think that's all the big heavy stuff. All right. Let me get to, one, everybody in Florida, Georgia, Carolinas, Tennessee, Alabama, make sure you guys are staying safe during Hurricane Helene, right? Kind of scary. I saw that it's already at a Category 4. I'm a little nervous for people in Georgia, specifically like all of central and southern Georgia, even the Atlanta metro, I'm a little nervous for. So I hope everything works out. Please don't go out there doing nothing foolish. Don't try to drive through standing water, even if you have a Ford F-350 heavy duty. Please, for the sake of everybody's safety, let's use common sense in these moments. All right, let's not touch any loose wires. Make sure y'all got your batteries and stuff. And, we'll keep you guys in our thoughts. Because, again, Category 4 is a serious storm. Like, I think the last Cat 4 we had was Hurricane Ian, which was what, last year? Was that last year, the year before? And we haven't, I think that, fortunately, it's not a Category 5, but I remember Hurricane Michael in 2018. That was a Cat 5, and that one did some serious damage. Hurricanes, no fun, right? Fortunately, the hurricanes I've been in weren't too bad. If you listen to my podcast, the week that we had the earthquake on the East Coast, we also got hit by Hurricane Irene the same weekend, right? And then we got hit by Hurricane Sandy, and it wasn't too bad for DC. It kind of did more damage in New York, but hopefully everything aligns for everybody. Everybody is safe. All right, I'm gonna read a few comments, and then we're gonna talk about Miss Jackson because I know that's who most of y'all are here for. All right, let's see. Let's see. Maria said, dang, we don't have Instagram. Oh, okay, I didn't think of that. All right, we will find an additional option next time. I just do Instagram because it's easier. Maybe we'll just have, see, it's too many steps if I have y'all try to send it to me in an email. That's a little too much, but we'll see. Okay, let's see. Y'all want me to drag my fave so bad. Okay, anyway, let's get to Miss Jackson, right? So every now and then, people that we love do and say certain things that have you be like, what are you doing? Why and how? And for me, I'm not going to lie, I was a little annoyed, mainly because I was trying to celebrate the release of my albums, and my albums hadn't even been out for 12 hours. And then guess who decided to upstage me? My own fave. Imagine that, right? And so when I saw that article, I was like, nope, I'm not doing it right now. And because it was 8th Street Festival in DC too. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to tune all that out and come back to it later. I'm going to go to 8th Street Festival, enjoy the music, enjoy the food, enjoy the Black people. And unfortunately, because everybody knows who I like as entertainers, I'm getting tons and tons of text messages and calls and messages on social media. I'm like, y'all won't even let me have the day. My God. All right. So let's go through this. Now, I'm going to approach this from like two aspects. One, I want to just specifically speak on Janet, and then I want to come back to the conversation of race, because I think this is a multi-layered conversation. It just so happened to fall into this really nasty combination of a lot going on. So let me see here. What I want to share first, trying to get my notes ready. All right. So long story short, Guardian article comes out. I was already kind of side-eyeing because I said, I don't know why she would do an article with them, because they haven't really been too kind to the Jacksons as a family to begin with. But anyway, there's that. So let me read the segment that has everybody dragging the mess out of Miss Jackson, right? All right. So let's see. On that record, she sang about joining voices in protest to social injustice and pushing toward a world rid of color lines. I wonder where she stands on the forthcoming election. After all, I say America could be on the verge of voting in its first Black female president, Kamala Harris. Well, this is Janet. Well, you know what they supposedly said, she asked me. She's not Black. That's what I heard, that she's Indian. She looks at me expectantly, perhaps assuming that I have Indian heritage. Well, she's both, I offer. Her father is, this is Janet again, her father's white. That's what I was told. I mean, I haven't watched the news in a few days. She coughs. I was told that they discovered her father was white. I'm floored at this point. It's well known that Harris's father is a Jamaican economist, a Stanford professor who split from her Indian mother when she was 5. My mother understood very well that she was raising 2 Black daughters, Harris wrote in her book, The Truth We Hold. The people who are most vocal in questioning the facts of Harris's identity tend to be hardcore QAnon-adjacent, Trump-loving conspiracy theorists. I don't think Jackson falls into that camp, but I do wonder what the algorithms are serving her. I start again. Harris has dual heritage. I say, and given this moment, does Jackson think America is ready for her? If we agree, she's Black. Or, okay, a woman of color. Janet. I don't know, Jackson stage whispers. See, they tried it with the stage whispers. Okay. Honestly, I don't want to answer that because I really truthfully don't know. I think either way it goes, it's going to be mayhem, right? She doesn't think there will be a peaceful transition of power. She says, I think there might be mayhem, she falters. Either way it goes, but we'll have to see. Let's see, is that everything? Yeah. Okay. So that's the piece that has everybody blowing up, right? I will say this. I think it helps to speak on only the things you know. It helps to not speak on things you're unsure about, right? Because one, seeing that Janet is already Janet Jackson and she's of a certain caliber, one, she doesn't really speak on politics to begin with. So I think in this moment, it caught a few people off guard that this was even kind of, somewhat the conversation. And like I've always said, and this is for anybody, I've always said specifically for me, I don't get my politics from celebrities for various reasons, because a lot of times they don't have the range for different conversations. But this conversation is a little bit more nuanced because it's centered around the conversation of race, which everybody seems to be disagreeing on at the moment. And then I also was remembering, okay, well, Janet specifically in my head doesn't kind of live in the world that we live in. She already said she hasn't been watching the news. She's been on tour for however long, right? I think she got a show tonight or something like that. And again, when you have somebody who's just been rich and famous since they were like 3, they just live in a world that we don't live in. But this is what I did notice, right? I noticed that I feel like she caught herself and tried to clean it up, which is why she said the bit about, honestly, I don't know. I don't want to answer because I truthfully don't know. But the problem is, for some people, you've already lit the fire when you jumped into that space, right? And so the fire's already been spread. And again, just from what I was seeing, to me, it felt like this part of the conversation was kind of like that side talk people do. But I think for somebody like Janet, who's 58 and is well aware of how press works, you should kind of understand that in any moment where you're with a journalist, anything that you say can be published, right? And so it's like the mic is on, right? And so going back, like I said, she said she hasn't really watched the news like that. This would kind of explain why she said the bit about, supposedly, and she heard. I think with this, because it's such a tribal political climate, everything that's said by anybody who's in a public space and anything that they say that may somewhat feel like it may be detrimental to somebody's campaign, it's going to get that kind of smoke, right? And so when she's talking about what she heard or supposedly, everybody's like, oh, that sounds like something Randy would say. If you pay attention, Randy is the brother that tends to be the big trumper, and he has lived, right? He'd been shot by Tina. He has claimed that he was held hostage by the drug cartel in Colombia. He didn't had a few charges. There's the child support. We'd be here all day, right? But everybody knows that Randy's kind of her manager at this point. And so anyway, minus him, I'll come back to him later. But anyway, so the story drops, right? And then this is where it gets really interesting, because then there's an apology that is released, right? So there's this apology that's released, and then the apology is kind of retracted because Janet's team is like, wait a minute, the person that released this apology is not associated with us. Now, this is interesting because in the world of the Janet fans, they have been fighting and clawing over where this goes. Now, me, being the Janet fan that I am, I'm going to say this. I have never heard of this guy until last month, right? Janet's team at this point has kind of been Randy since 2017 and a few additional folks. This person, I forgot his name already. Somebody ain't nobody ever heard. But some of the Janet fans were kind of digging up his stuff. And so he claims that he has done consulting work for Janet, Beyonce, Britney Spears, and Selena Gomez. But there is no evidence of this man anywhere. No credits, no anything, right? And what was interesting to me, too, with that was that when the apology was submitted, it was submitted to BuzzFeed. And I was like, BuzzFeed? Somebody of Janet's caliber, because again, this is not somebody off the Zeus network. Normally if one Janet doesn't release a lot of statements like this, but if she were, it's definitely not going to BuzzFeed. She'll send it to Variety, Harper's Bazaar, the AP, somewhere else. So that was kind of the piece where I was like, I don't know. So I know the guy claimed that he was fired by Janet's team. Personally, I don't know if he ever worked for Janet. Based on what I was reading with the claims that he has as far as who he's worked with, this seems like somebody who is probably a super fan, but a clout chaser and wanted to kind of protect her image. But this is where we also run into the issue, because now it looks like, okay, so you retracted the apology, but are you going to apologize? That's how people are looking at it. And because she hasn't really said a lot, it's making people kind of feel like, I don't know, Miss Jackson. I personally feel that with Janet, her approach has always been let it blow over. I don't know if that necessarily works in this moment, just because it's such a high caliber story and it's found its way to everything. And again, that's why I say celebrities should not speak on things they don't know of. But again, I think it gets deeper than that. But before I get to what's deeper, I do want to say, D.L. Hughley, you tried it. Now, it's one thing to hold somebody accountable or not like what something has, not like what has been said about whoever. But what we're not going to do is all of a sudden turn this into, well, we just going to start dragging this woman for her physical appearance. So now he started talking about the plastic surgery and the nose and all that. I said, okay, so some of y'all just already had it out for the lady to begin with. That's one. And so it was like you started seeing people going after Michael's kids, her kids. I was like, listen, if we're going to give the criticism, rightfully so for how you feel, but let's keep it to what was actually said, not just whatever personal vendetta you already had against the woman to begin with, right? So getting to a deeper element of all this, right? So again, politically, like I said, because this is such a tribal climate, many feel that what she has said kind of latches on to reductive talking points, especially talking points that have been used by the extreme right? That's kind of the approach, right? And I think what makes this interesting is when we're talking about Kamala is and will be the only candidate in this election that has to answer for her race, right? Trump is never going to have to. Trump's a white man. He gets to do whatever he does, right? It is what it is. Kamala, unfortunately for her, race is centered all around her. So when it comes to white America, they know she's not white. They're going to put her in the other category. And technically with that, other just means not white. Anything not white, you're not getting in the door. We've seen that conversation with Vivek, seen the conversation with Nikki. That's kind of where Kamala falls in. And for some black people, they feel that, well, she ain't one of us either, right? And so we're to that space. And then it also becomes a conversation of how people see blackness generationally. Because really, when you get into it, there's so many layers that go into race. And I think, again, with somebody of Janet's caliber, speaking of whatever she spoke of, the question becomes, well, what's the end goal? Is this because you would like to influence how people feel about this specific election? Or is this just honestly how you feel, saying, well, I heard this, or I don't know? That's kind of the question that people have. And for me, it seems like the response that she has is specifically into the conversation of first black, right? That's kind of where I see her response. I don't see her as a Trumper, because I feel like that contradicts everything about her music, literally every song. And it's seeing that she is an advocate for all of these different marginalized groups. I wouldn't see her as a Trumper, but I could be 100% wrong. You know, sometimes when you're a fan of somebody, you want to see the good, right? But this brings me to our conversation of race. We live in an era at the moment where this is probably one of the most unique times when it comes to how people decipher race, right? Because you have conversations of delineation, you have conversations of lineage, there's conversations of flat blackness, there's conversations of people who are biracial or mixed race. Like there was a time period where the idea of biracial and mixed race almost couldn't be a thing. It's like people had to choose one or the other. Even when I was growing up, I always saw everybody who was mixed race or biracial, I saw them as black. And a lot of that has to do with the fact of where I grew up. There already wasn't that many of us. So we were happy to have a lunch table. We were scraping together whoever we could get, and you were black. That's how we saw it. But now the conversation has kind of shifted where people are becoming fine with the idea of somebody just existing as mixed race or existing as biracial and not having specifically to choose a side, but understanding that both sides of their existence give them access or can close doors to certain experiences, right? Proximity to, if somebody's mixed with black and white, proximity to whiteness allows you to get in some doors, but that black element still will close other doors, right? So there's that piece, right? And then there's the conversations of the 4 black grandparents. There's a conversation of the 1-drop rule. Then we talk about what's happening in Hollywood with representation and the conversation of who they're getting to play black actors, or if they're starting to get people who tend to be more racially ambiguous to kind of fill the black quota. Like you have all that going on. And then when you add in all the groups, it gets even more chaotic because now you get in, you add in ADOS, you add in FBA, you add in freedmen, you add in the folks who feel that we're all indigenous, you add in the Black Israelites. We will be here all day on race because at this point, there are so many conversations happening at the same time and so many moving parts. So for me, I think this conversation is actually much bigger than Janet, right? She clearly had the wrong info because Kamala's father is not white, clearly, right? She clearly had the wrong information. But at the same time, the reason I feel it's interesting to see how people move is people are kind of treating this lady like she's on the soapbox. And I don't see it that way. I see her as speaking on something she didn't know about, opened her mouth and effed up, right? Depending on how you see this conversation. And that's it. I don't see her as an Amber Rose showing up and latching onto the nonsense and agreeing with the rumors that have been said about Haitians. And because she's, you know, I don't know what her financial situation is, but I don't see Janet in the Amber Rose box. I don't see Janet in the Tim Scott box. And what I mean by that is my question soon becomes when these celebrities or these public figures make these gaffes or say these things where you're like, what the hell? What? The question soon becomes, well, is this somebody who's in the way of blackness? Is this somebody who's in the way of black progress? I don't care what y'all think of who Janet may have procreated with or who she may have dated in the past. I don't see her as somebody who is detrimental to the black plight of anything. So when folks were like, cancel her, I said, she'd have to do a little bit more for me to cancel her. I mean, I could put her on punishment for a few hours. But again, I think, again, looking at this conversation, I don't know how Janet looks at race. Specifically, when we're talking generationally, Janet to me comes from an era where blackness meant that you missed that 4 grandparents. I think the bigger issue is, again, the political climate that we're in. People have weaponized Kamala's race against her to use it as a way to not ensure that she gets into office. So by Janet saying the things that she says, it makes people feel like, okay, is this the conversation you want to have right now with everything that's happening? When we start talking this Project 2025 and all this Trump nonsense and JD Vance and everything else like that, we really need you to kind of just stay out of the way because we're trying to not have any more crazy white nationalists be in charge of shit or in charge of stuff. That's kind of how a lot of folks, I think, are seeing it. And this goes back to what I said 2 lives ago, where remember I said specifically that when we talk about the 2020 election And the 13 candidates that were running, 78% of the mis and disinformation that was put out specifically about Kamala. So with all that being said, the lesson to be learned in here is don't speak if you don't know, right? I think that's the danger. And I think people are frustrated because they want Janet to say something else. I don't think she's going to say anything. Listen, this is the woman whose entire areola was seen by the whole world. Okay, she's been through a whole lot worse. I don't think she's really locked into this. I think some of this also has to do with the fact that she doesn't live here. But no, I saw that. I said, Janet, why? Why did you even have to say anything? Why? And you know what's crazy? Literally the night before, I was just about to tweet because a lot of these celebrities have just been out of pocket lately. I was just about to tweet like, dang, I'm glad at least my favorite artists don't ever be saying nothing to have us in some crazy compromised position. But never mind, Janet. I don't know, but now I know people keep talking about Randy. Janet fans are about to fight me, but I will say this because with Randy, yeah, Randy is to me an extremity of a lot of things. But I do feel that with Janet, because I know people kept trying to say Randy's brainwashing her, blah 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 blah. Janet is grown. Janet is going on 60, right? I feel like Janet has her own agency to understand the world how she understands it. If it doesn't align with our views, or if it's something that is a little like, what the heck, I can't 100% put that on somebody like Randy. I'm sorry. Now, I will say, again, like with Randy, because people were wondering when he became her manager. He's been her manager since 2017, right? I do feel that he has horrible viewpoints on a lot of things. I don't agree with him, and he definitely is a part of that whole QAnon MAGA crap. And who knows, maybe he's feeding stuff to her. But I've also noticed that for Janet, she seems to always mold to the personality trait of whatever man she's around. Whether it's like, when you look at, like, I always say my favorite era of Janet Jackson was when she was with Jermaine Dupri, because to me, that's when she seemed the most normal, down to earth, not as elusive. You know, you might catch her at the gas station and she might say, "What's up?" And then you notice, like, when she married with Sam, that's kind of like, you know, she's changed religions and she's performing the tours with the Aladdin costume, which I like, by the way. Y'all was cooking it. I like the Aladdin costume, right? But you kind of watch how her entire stage show and everything kind of shifted. Randy is the person who came and pretty much, I don't want to say rescued, but he's the person who came and stepped into the picture after she got divorced, in the same way that Randy stepped in when LaToya left the abusive husband. I don't know what's going on with the Jackson clan. All I know is I wish celebrities would stop talking. I just need y'all to entertain, because it's not my job to come up here and try to defend y'all. Y'all on your own, right? Love me some Janet, but I was reading that article, and the more I read, I was like, why? And it's so weird, because the rest of the article was giving you some really cool little tidbits. And some of the other Janet fans and people who were reading were saying, like, because there's a segment in there where she talks about why she hasn't released music, and saying that, you know, she's waiting to be allowed to. So people felt like she's being controlled, or she is not herself. Long story short with that, she signed a really terrible contract in 2017 that she really couldn't get out of. And then the pandemic happened, and that album she was supposed to drop got canceled. And then that company sued her because there was supposed to be an album and a tour canceled because of the pandemic. She got sued because they paid for the Made for Now music video. And in response for payment, or paying them back, it was supposed to be, you know, the album and the tour that would kind of cover the expenses. None of that happened. There's a big lawsuit. There was a sell-off of some of her masters, all kind of nonsense going on. And I do think that's one of the reasons why she has still been on this long tour, and why she keeps jumping into these big, giant, like, touring engagements in Vegas and whatever. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. I would actually like for her to kind of clear up her statements, just to kind of say how she feels, but she's not going to do it. And I think this really goes back to how people specifically feel in the conversation of race. I think the conversation is reductive, specifically, because for me, I just need a candidate that's not going to be crazy. Give me some decent policy, and let's clean up the nonsense that's there. So I'm not really harping on the race of any politician, because, like I said 2 and 3 lives ago, every major person who's had the Oval Office has been white, and a white male, aside from Barack, who was the one exception, right? So this idea of measuring blackness to be a qualification to get into the White House, that's some new 2024 stuff. Oh, Janet, clean it up. I'm going to take a quick pause. Let's see how bad I'm getting cussed out in the chat. And then I do want to talk about Marcellus Williams, right? All right. And at the end of the day, I just think there's bigger. Janet said what she said. Whether you like it or not, these celebrities say all kind of things. Y'all give pass, especially when we get to these rappers that y'all give tons and tons of passes to, that say so much more and things that are a million times worse, and y'all still buy their products, their shoes, and do everything else. I don't want to hear it. Anyway, do better. All right, let's see where we're at here. Don Smart said it's not the race, it's the qualifications. That's my approach. Like, I really don't care what Kamala is. I just need somebody who's not crazy. That's all I need. Let's see. Now, I will say it does sound like she's not informed on a lot happening in the world. So, like, that's why I was like, sometimes just don't speak. It helps, right? Because the other thing is, like, you start tarnishing the legacy when people start to move against you in massive ways. It doesn't really help because now everybody's looking at you sideways, right? Tyler Hackman said, whenever somebody says, I heard this, I don't trust. Same thing, which is why I was like, if you heard it, unless it's confirmed, right? Anyway, Janet. Let's see. Somebody said, I don't think she's a Trumper. I think she made a really dumb comment. Okay, that's kind of how I see it. Like, and that's really not like her to say things that far out of pocket. That's the only reason why she's been getting a little grace from me. It would be different if there was a pattern and she was always saying some dumb stuff. But yeah. Elena said, my issue is this nonsense played out with Obama, and it's not about his birth, and it was about his birth certificate. And now Kamala about race. The issues others never face. Even Nikki Haley does not get this because Nikki can pass for a white woman. Because I didn't even know Nikki was Indian until I read up on her and found out both parents were Indian. I thought she was white. All right, let's see. All right, people keep saying that she's doubling down. I don't know if it's necessarily doubling down because Janet technically hasn't said anything. Right? I think with anything, Janet's team was clearing up that the person that was speaking on her behalf is not a part of her team. And I think the danger of that is if something like that is not corrected, that person can continue to go on and put all different kind of things out. And I think they were clearing that up. But it doesn't look good because it's like, well, if you clear that up, now when are you going to say something? That's what I think most people are like, we're waiting and we're not getting anything. And now she jumped into her next tour and kept it moving. So it's like, okay. All right, Miss Jackson. All right. Somebody said, you'll be roasting if it was anybody else. You'll be in here going off. My thing is, this goes back to what I was saying, where it would be different if Janet was on a soapbox and trying to start a movement and running with these viewpoints. Most of the people that I've been on here tearing apart are people who are trying to influence conversations, are people who run on these different platforms and purposely spew out misinformation. Now, I don't like the way she said anything, but specifically she did say supposedly, and I heard, meaning that I'm saying this, but I don't know if it's true. I'm not passing it off as fact. That's the only reason she's being given grace in this. That's it. That's where I'm at with that. Like I said, I don't agree with the idea of even having this conversation because she didn't have the range for it to begin with. And again, I feel like, Janet, no, stop. And for me, because there's so much at stake in regard to this election, and I'm really over these crazy right-wing white nationalist folks trying to get in the door, I don't need anything kind of compromising that. So that's why I was like, why? Right. Anyway. So yeah, y'all just gonna have to be mad at me on that one. Sorry. All right. Lakia says she's too old not to know better. I'd agree, but then look at who the previous president was. Look how crazy Trump is, and that man is 80. So age doesn't always mean wisdom. I think she needs to just do a better job of having conversations she knows about, like, especially at this big age of hers. This is not the time to start tarnishing your legacy because it's harder to make those kind of comebacks the older you get. People move on. Let's see. Ray the Saint said an answer was not needed. I agree. It was, and it seems like it was information that was kind of just volunteered. I don't even think they specifically asked about that, but whatever. Where are we at here? Woo, said a word here. Mike DeBradley. Janet may not live here, but her coins come from here, and she's killing her coins. Yeah, Janet, we'll see how that Vegas residency goes because you done pissed off everybody on this side. Let's see. Let's see. AE said, Janet does not believe Kamala is a black woman. This is not a matter of right or wrong. Janet is a black woman, and she said that Kamala is not a black woman. Furthermore, this discussion did not begin with Janet. All right. Somebody said if she needs to clip anything, it's who she's voting for, bump race. Now, the one thing, Jenna has never endorsed any political candidate, so I don't think she's ever going to say who she's voting for. I will say the only political candidate she follows on social media is Barack Obama. But yeah, she's never endorsed any candidate, so I don't really know where she stands politically. That's why I was saying sometimes it's smart to, right? Some of our favorite people probably have some horrible views that we'll never know about if they're smart and keep it to themselves, right? But this is why I say when it comes to celebrities, they stay in the entertainment box with me. That's all I can give them. I don't look to any of these people as the okay, yeah, like even, I know this sounds cheesy. So even like if you're talking like Rhythm Nation, and she said like she liked the idea of shooting the video in black and white because everybody's just different shades of gray and you don't worry about race. I never even saw it for that thing, because I feel like in this current society, they would still find a way to segregate different shades of gray. So I was never that deep into that. But all right. Nikita Clark said Janet said she didn't know for sure. She just heard. That's the reason why I said I was giving grace. It would have been different if she was out here running and having speeches, but she just said, this is what I heard. I don't know. And she said, I haven't watched the news. And then she tried to clean herself up and said, I honestly don't know. I really don't want to speak on it. Problem is, you already spoke on it. Anyway. All right, we got to move on, y'all. There's so many other things going on. Somebody said, why the interviewer asked her this question, if not to put Janet on blast. Well, the full article is weird anyway, because the article's cooking the Jackson. They were going down the line with all the Jacksons. LaToya got cooked in that article. Michael got dragged. So that's why I was like, why did you interview with them anyway? They've never really been that kind. Jelona Hughes says, so are you calling her ignorant? I'm saying she's uninformed on something that she spoke about to a mass media, and now she's getting cooked for it. I wouldn't say she's necessarily ignorant in general with everything, but I think it goes to the conversation of how she interprets race. And secondly, again, I would say the ignorant aspect would be speaking on something that you can't confirm, but speaking on something to a publication where it's going to go out to the masses. That might be the ignorant part. And I think it's because she keeps saying the piece that she saw that the father was white. That's where she really has it wrong. I was like, all right. So anyway, we got to move on, y'all. Anyway, y'all ain't about that woman's records anyway, so we'll be all right. Somebody said, why are they coming for me? They'll come. It's fine. It's fine what it is. It's 80,000 people who subscribe. Everybody's not going to like me. It's okay. All right. All right, y'all are pissed about this one. Somebody said Kamala made mention of witnesses during Michael Jackson's trial. Janet was giving shade. Now I know nothing about that. I can't even say. See how I can say I don't know something, and I don't know about all that. I haven't seen that, so I can't speak on it. But we'll look into that. All right. Anyway, we got to move on, guys. Okay. Marcellus Williams. God, I really was trying to do a live the other day, and I just did not have the time. All right. So as we know, this is the case coming out of Missouri where it was the death penalty case, right? And unfortunately, he's been executed. Now, let me say this. I've always said I don't support the death penalty, and I don't because, one, a lot of it is centered around political agendas, and secondly, the variations of the rules change by state and change by county. Perfect example, right? Gary Ridgway. This was the Green River Killer. This is the guy that killed 48 women in King County, Washington. Now, this is how, when we're talking capital punishment, how it ends up becoming very sketchy. So he killed 48 women in King County, Washington. The county that borders King County is Pierce County, which is actually where I'm from. In Pierce County, they have capital punishment. This is 2001. At the time, they had capital punishment. King County didn't. And had one of those bodies been found in Pierce County, he would have been facing capital punishment. But then in addition to that, as a part of his plea deal, he pretty much agreed with the court that if he could help find the bodies, right, that the people he's killed, if he can help the police find the bodies, this would kind of give him additional protections in the event that other bodies were found in other counties that may possibly have the death penalty. That's wild to me, right? And so anyway, with that being said, it kind of just goes back to the fact that, for me, when the process of conviction is there, right? It's the burden of proof is, beyond a reasonable doubt to convict somebody. So shouldn't that mean that in the event that this is capital punishment and now somebody's life is on the line, if there's information that comes out that possibly shifts the narrative to where now it brings in doubt as to whether this person has been rightfully convicted, shouldn't that mean everything pauses in regard to the idea of capital punishment? Like, that's how I would see it. Like, if I'm a judge and, well, first of all, I ain't gonna be killing nobody, but if I was a judge and somebody's sentenced to capital punishment, and then information comes that says, well, actually, this, that, and the third, or not even a judge, if I'm the DA, right? All these different things come in saying, well, there's a few questions here. We got some evidence, we got some witnesses, if we can, statements, so on and so forth. I don't know how I could sleep knowing that if there's information that may possibly exonerate somebody floating out there, that I would still say, well, too bad, so sad, on to the next. And so that, for me, I don't know. Because I feel like the minute something that comes out and like challenges a conviction, especially if there's evidence, like, I feel like that's when the state should automatically kick in. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then when we're really talking numbers, right? So 93 of the 153 convictions, right? I'm sorry, let me correct that. There were 153 exonerations. 93 of them were from Black folks. Now, these are exonerations between 1989 and 2022. Again, 93 of the 153 exonerations were Black folks. That's 61%. Again, because it's crazy. People love to make this argument saying, like, Black folks are 13% of the population, but commit 50% of the murders and blah, 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 blah. You know, they love to use some racist talking points. But again, when we're looking at the percentage of people who are exonerated, look how high the number is, literally 60%, right? And studies also show that 4 to 6% of people who are incarcerated have been falsely convicted, wrongfully convicted. That's almost 1 in 20 people. So that should tell you that we're living in a system where the idea of capital punishment should not be on the table when there are that many loopholes, that many gaps, that many flaws, right? And then again, since 1989, you know, there have been 575 people who have been exonerated through DNA. And so when I'm looking at just kind of what happens in this specific case, it's weird to see how anybody can really stand behind the idea of capital punishment, because again, there's just too many loopholes. And I don't know. I question and I wonder just how many people have been executed for crimes they didn't commit. We've talked about George Stinney before. That was the 14-year-old who was accused of raping and killing these 2 white girls. He didn't do any of it, but they gave him capital punishment right away. He didn't even have really a fair trial. But this is one of those moments where they bust and they snatch you up and you're convicted right in the same day, right? And they gave him the electric chair. The boy was so small he couldn't even fit in the electric chair. They had to stack some Bibles up, put him in the seats, right? Crazy. And so now I do want to have a conversation on civics, because I saw a lot of crazy talking points today and yesterday, right? A lot of folks were saying, why didn't Joe go and do something? And why didn't Kamala do? Why she didn't go out there and do something, right? And people, I need us to do better with understanding how all of this crap works. It's fine to question the system, because we do that all the time. But the questions need to be valid and rooted in what's actually reality and not how you think the world works. So cleaning some things up here. Understand that if you are convicted on a state level for any kind of crime, the federal government cannot step in and pardon or give you clemency, because it's at a state level, right? And I think people were confused because, you know, the case went to the Supreme Court, or could have gone to the Supreme Court. So that's what kind of has people confused, because they felt like the federal government could step in. So let's just go step by step, because again, this goes back to the 10th Amendment, right? 10th Amendment, this is the one that gives rights to the states, right? States' rights, that's that conversation. So let's go step by step. Step 1, all right? Marcellus is convicted, right? Step 2, questions emerge. Something ain't done right, because mind you, he's been sentenced to death. Questions emerge. Something may not have necessarily been done right. You have witnesses recanting different statements. There's compromise, or there's something shaky in the evidence, right? So now something needs to be done. So now here's the next step. They go to the state and say, hey, you guys dropped the ball on this. I think we need to fix this. You got to fix this now, because you can't kill this man because you have all this on the table, right? Now, the next step was the state said, no, we don't care, not dealing with it. So it finds its way to the state Supreme Court. State Supreme Court is like, no, we're not dealing with it. Too bad, right? And so now it goes to the Supreme Court. So people start seeing federal and get this all mixed up. Understand it, as this case goes to the Supreme Court, this is now specifically a totally different case. This is still about Marcellus, but Marcellus is not the docket. The docket is now the state. The claim is stating that the state has made a mistake, and because the state cannot govern itself, the federal government would need to step in to correct the mistake that the state made, but all specifically within the judicial level, because remember, we have the 3 branches: executive, judicial, legislative. This is all specifically judicial. So when we're talking about the Supreme Court stepping in, it can only stay specifically through this judicial conversation, meaning no other powers can jump in. Congress can't jump in and do something. the executive branch just can't jump in and do something, right? And so now we get to this point, and the Supreme Court has a choice, right? Because the claim is saying, hey, the state dropped the ball here. They're trying to kill this person. There's evidence that might exonerate this man. And so we need you to tell the state that y'all are tripping. You can't kill this person. And the Supreme Court has a choice. And this is the federal. We're talking state, the national Supreme Court, right? Supreme Court of the United States. They now have a choice to either see the case or say, no, we're going to pass it back to the states because that's what the 10th Amendment allows us to do. In this case, the Supreme Court said we're going to pass it back to the state. Now, a lot of people in this moment felt this is when Joe's supposed to come in. But here's the problem. Joe is a member of the executive branch, right? So when we're talking about the conversation of separation of powers, the executive branch cannot intrude on the judicial decisions of a state court, right? Because again, a federal executive branch cannot jump in and deal with what's happening in the judicial system at a state level. It doesn't work that way. And so that's kind of the issue because it goes back to the separation of powers, right? Now, I will give some tidbits because a lot of people were really, really pissed off. And again, somehow they made this all super bipartisan. And somehow it was the Democrats' fault in this one. And it's kind of like, well, to give some additional insight, right? The DA that was trying to overturn the conviction was a Democrat, right? The attorney general who said no, he's still being executed, was a Republican, right? The Supreme Court that voted and said, no, we're still going to kill him. These were appointed by Republicans. So again, and then again, the Supreme Court, we're talking national, Supreme Court of the United States who said no. We know that 6 of the justices were appointed by Republicans, and it was those 6 who said no. Sorry, he just has to die, right? And so this is why when people kind of jump into this conversation about why they don't engage politically, I get a little annoyed because, again, it's not saying voting fixes everything, but understand that 2 of those Supreme Court justices in the state of Missouri are on the ballot in November. That matters, right? That could play a huge role into what happens later down the line with people in the future. And so even when we're talking about the Missouri governor, Mark Parson, right? He had a chance to give clemency, right? He chose not to. But it's interesting that he pardoned that NFL coach, the Brett Reed guy who was drunk driving and hit the 5-year-old girl, and she's permanently disfigured and has a disability. They got a pardon. They got clemency. They were given grace. And my question just becomes, how do you sleep again, knowing that there's possible evidence that there's somebody who may be wrong? Well, again, I don't support the death penalty, but there may be somebody who will be getting killed unjustifiably, and you sleeping tonight, snoring good, on a good pillow. The pillow's nice and cool. Like that for me gives a whole lot of questions. And this goes back to what I said again, for those who are the contrarian disciples who, again, spend all day talking about how the system's broken and blah, blah, blah. I 100% hear it. But then at the same time, these are the same folks who don't want to engage in any element. It's not saying that voting fixes everything, but I'm at this point where I keep saying, at this point, I need y'all to start putting your candidates on the bills, putting your candidates, fund them, do whatever, put the people that you really want to get behind at the polls, make those nominations happen, start those coalitions, right? And I'm saying this right now in, September of 2024. This is now the time to start pushing and fighting for your candidates for 2032. That's more than enough time to build your grassroots organizations. That's more than enough time to align with different groups that can fund and do whatever. There's more than enough time to make certain conversations and things that you're fighting for become a part of a national dialect and conversation. So even going back to the conversation of reparations, right? Think about how reparations has always kind of been a conversation, but you saw reparations become a conversation on a national political stage in 2020. This is after the reemergence of different groups that were pushing for reparations starting around 2016, 2017, right? Now that conversation has spread, and now it's finding its way to the national stage. This is the same thing I'm talking about when it comes to pushing and getting behind different candidates that can get what it is that you want. The time for 2032 is now. And sadly, we will fast forward to 2031 and we'll still be having the same conversation just like I had in 2018 when I said the time for 2024 was then, right? And here we are. So it's just like, I say this like as far as the whole voting thing, because people, listen, voting is not the end all be all. It's just one piece of the pie. It's kind of like if you have a car, right? If you get a car, yes, you got to put gas in it. Let's just say gas is symbolic of voting. Yes, you can always just put gas in the car is going to run. But there are other things that you have to do with that car. You got to get the tires rotated. You eventually have to change the oil. You're going to have to flush the engine at some point. You're going to have to change the carbon filters. You're going to have to change the window wipers. You're going to do all kinds of different things, especially as the car gets older. But if you're only putting gas in it, yeah, the car is going to fall apart and it's going to be an S-word show. And I think people who keep talking about voting doesn't do anything, say that because they're looking at voting in the same way as people who would only put gas in the car and not take care of the car. It's not saying that voting is the end all be all and the savior to anything. It's saying that it gives you a little bit of leverage when it comes to working within a system that's already screwing us over. That's the way to look at it. And so I would like for folks, because again, we're talking about two Supreme Courts, right? A state Supreme Court and a federal Supreme Court, where you have these judges that are appointed by people who are elected by the people. And so, yes, had there been different representation on either of those courts, that man could have possibly been saved. Or had there been a different governor, that man could have been saved. So yes, you may think that your vote doesn't carry any weight, but it technically does. And I just need us to understand that voting does not mean it's the savior is going to come in and do everything we want. It's just one piece of the pie. And I need folks to look at voting as like, it's not a marriage, because folks have turned voting into something that's like, folks are treating voting as if you're going and giving birth without any meds. Now, some of y'all like to do the natural birth. Good luck to you. But you're not pushing out twins naturally, with no support. You're literally going, checking some boxes and going home. And for a lot of you, the things come in the mail. You get a mail-in bag. You can literally, from the comfort of your couch, while you watching in the heat of the night, send it off. Give it to your grandson or to your son or whoever to go take to the mailbox. That's literally it. So understand, there's so many conversations to be had about all of the ills that exist within this country, especially when we're talking systemically. We know the flaws that exist within the prison industrial complex. We know the flaws that exist within the judicial system. So why not only sit out, but then advocate for others to do the same and advocate for others to just totally disconnect, because somehow that's going to make all of the people who are treating us terribly magically have a heart and say, oh, we see that they don't care anymore. We should try to win them back over. That's not going to happen. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to pause and read some comments. Keep it moving. All right. Are we still on, Janet? Oh, Lord. Okay. All right. Let's see. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, y'all are having this one. All right. Let's see. We're supposed to be talking about Marcellus. Okay, people, I need us to focus. Where is the... All right, I'll start. Okay, Christine Steffens, best 2 words when you don't know, no comment. 100%. Totally agree. We all still on Janet. Loretta Banks said, Janet, damn near 60, does not know how to research. We've already had that conversation about how to properly research on here. There's a whole lot of folks. It ain't just her. Anyway. Okay, course correction. I worked on a death penalty appeal as a law clerk. Very hard to overturn a jury's decision. Doubt about their innocence isn't enough under appellate rules. A lot of times, really, you need DNA evidence. That's like the ones, and even some moments then, people still, when the evidence is right there, there's been a handful of cases where it's like stuff still didn't change. So it's a very layered conversation. There's so many things that got to be fixed. That's why it's really hard to spend too much time like locked into things that I don't think matter as much. Let's see. Somebody said those stats are appalling. They are. And mind you, when we're talking about that what's that number I had? It was 93 out of 150 something. I've dropped a piece of paper. But those are just the people that were able to get lawyers that will work pro bono, or they had the resources to still even hear the case. So these are, and a lot of that is credit to the Innocence Project. But again, think about those who don't have that representation. Think about those who were falsely convicted, probably lost their minds in the prison, probably spent many, many days, weeks, months in solitary confinement, and mentally are not even in a space where they can fight for themselves anymore because their mind is so far gone. Think about all those people, right? That representation with those numbers, those are just the people who had the helping hand. This system doesn't give a helping hand to everybody. These are the anomalies, right? So imagine the fact that that figure is probably even worse. That's the scary part. LJ said, in fairness, one judge did order additional investigation into the Marcellus Williams case. It was just never concluded. Personally, I don't know how the governor moved forward. Like, they just crazy, right? Man. Crazy. Mm-mm-mm. Um, where we at? Somebody said we need to be advocating for our candidates with class. Leave all that BS for the MAGA goons. All right. Wait, I'm a jackass. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Where are we at here? Somebody said they want the laws to quickly kill married children, non-unions, and immunity. Americans, death penalty and justice is on the ballot box. All right. Kira said they sleep just fine and don't give a blank. That's about me asking how can people sleep knowing that there's somebody who's on the on the docket to be executed, and there's possible evidence that they may not have done it, right? Somebody said, problem is people are lazy and only want to start pushing other candidates when it's too late. Now, I will say it is hard to get a candidate on the ballot, right? Because remember how we said you got to take money out of politics in order for politics to really work for the people? Unfortunately, I think what ends up happening is there are a lot of groups that try and push a certain candidate, but they get bought out or not even bought out, they get outspent, right? By somebody who has a bigger platform, bigger coalition, sometimes establishment, depending on which party it is. Sometimes, somebody's running to be the GOP nominee or the Democrat nominee, but the DNC has endorsed the other candidate, or the RNC has endorsed the other candidate, right? And so you have that take place. Like, man. Somebody said y'all got to start giving an F. We can shake things up if everyone puts in the work. And I'll say to that as well. Actually, I'm gonna pause that because I'm gonna talk about Clay Higgins in a second. I'm gonna come back to that. All right. Oh my God, why are we still on this? All right. I don't know why the Janet fans are trying to whack me of all people. If there's one bad person who's always been 10 toes down for Janet, it's me. So what we won't do is that. All right. Because I was here during the dark years when all of y'all jumped ship. None of y'all were anywhere to be found between 04 and 08. So I don't want to hear it. All right. Anyway. All right. I want to keep going. All right. Clay Higgins, right? This is another elected official. Again, foot in his mouth and says something half crazy. And again, these are the people that are in charge of everything. That's why folks want to keep sitting out, but these are the folks that are making the rules. All right, Clay Higgins. This is a tweet that he had and then deleted. LOL, these Haitians are wild. Eating pets, voodoo, which he spelled wrong, nastiest country in the Western Hemisphere, cults, slapstick gangsters. But damned if they don't feel all sophisticated now, filing charges against our president and VP. All these thugs better get their mind right and their A word out of our country before January 20th. Now, this is an elected official, right? And again, this just goes back to, again, I don't know how folks can just sit comfortably and let these kind of folks be in charge of stuff and be fine with it because folks are trying to teach lessons to other politicians. I don't know. These are not the people I would want to have free reign over anything in regard to my livelihood. That's all I'm saying, right? Especially, I feel like he has some nerve because he has enough going on, right? Now, one, he used to be a police officer, assaulted this unarmed black man, and then he resigned before the investigation could conclude or whatever, right? This is somebody who held a gun to the head of one of his ex-wives. He has 4 of them. This is somebody who owes $160,000 in child support. This is somebody who threatened to kill black protesters who were protesting police brutality. So it's kind of like, this goes back to my conversation we've been having about harm reduction in regard to why I think it should be more important for people to be a little bit more politically engaged. Because again, right, these are the folks that kind of get in the door. And so going back to that comment that I was saying earlier, where somebody was saying, how folks move. Understand when you're talking anti-blackness and when you're talking white nationalism, racist white people have never lost a plot. They always stay the course, no matter what. Like, they are going to continue to do any and everything to get everything that they want, even if it takes 40, 50 years. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are combating that, but they throw in the towel right away when things don't align, or they check out because things didn't go their way, and or things didn't happen fast enough. Like, understand, let me tell you how strong whiteness is. We're at a space where if there were an asteroid coming to hit Earth tomorrow, right? And the only way we could save ourselves were you got to vote for some black man named Leroy Johnson to be president. White folks would let this, we would be hit. So, sorry, nope, absolutely not. Like, they would let the whole Earth go, right? That's kind of where we're at, right? And pretty much like they're pretty much doing everything in their power to make sure that that status quo is maintained. Like, look at what's going on in North Carolina. I just saw, what was that? Let me see if I can find the article. I just wrote it down before I start with you guys. North Carolina, and this is all intentional, of course, removed 747,000 from voter rolls, citing ineligibility. You know what that's about, right? Continue to purge and purge because they're assuming that there's going to be people who are not locked in enough to really check in to see whether they're registered. And if they turn out to not be, they probably won't go and re-register. Like, there's a reason that they're doing all these different things to kind of stop groups from voting. And also notice that there's only one group of people who are told not to vote. It's always us, right? That's all intentional, right? When you're talking about all the laws, you saw Paxton in Texas say, had they not done what they did specifically with mail-in voting in Texas and a few additional things with Harris County, that orange man wouldn't have won Texas. And so, like, there's a lot going on here. I don't know. It's being real weird. Let me pause and read some comments for a sec. All right. Somebody said, is Trump still trying to give cops immunity? Y'all N-words tripping. Well, I mean, this is the same guy. I'm glad he just posted this too, right? Because this I got questions now, right? So he claimed this is Kamala's Project 2025. This is what he posted. All right. So, all right, citizenship for 20 million illegals. That's not even true. Ban gas-powered cars. That's technically not true either. Replace police with social workers. I don't see why that's a problem if you're doing a social call for somebody who's having a manic episode. I don't see that as a bad thing. Ban fracking, which I agree with. I already told you that's not really great for the environment. Transgender surgeries for minors. That's not true to begin with. Taxpayer-funded reparations. Oh, that's bad. Listen, the Orange Man said this is Kamala's Project 2025. Taxpayer-funded reparations. So, Orange, for you Orange disciples, he is not for reparations. And what's interesting, Kamala really didn't run on that either. Kamala, the statements that she's made on the conversation of reparations is she thinks that there should be a study. That's kind of what we've gotten so far out of her on that. Let's see, cashless bail for violent criminals. He doesn't want that either, right? Government and big tech censorship, federal takeover of all elections, using tax dollars to fund abortion, enforce racist affirmative action, mandate vaccinations, require government approval to buy a gun. That's y'all boy. Those are the things that he says are absolutely terrible. So some of y'all got some questions to answer. Anyway, going back to the chat here. Somebody said we aren't human to them. Our lives don't matter. That's how they've always moved. Mm-hmm. Somebody said voting is not the end all be all, but it's one of the many tools. And that's all it is. Like, it's just one tool. I don't understand why it's turned into something that's such a calamity where people like really hold it hostage. Like, just listen, okay. I understand not wanting to vote for something you don't agree with, but excuse me, that the idea of almost weaponizing your vote against the wrong folks is kind of what's sitting up under my skin, right? Especially when you understand that a lot of times when things go wrong in this country, the first group that's collateral is always black folk. We're always the first ones who are collateral, right? Like, even if you talk about the wild stuff that happened in January 6th, who are the people who had to clean all that up? Had to clean up blood and feces and snot and spit and piss, right? It wasn't white folks, it was us, right? The residents that live in the city. That people, for some reason, think this is just a political city, and when you come to D.C., no matter where you go, you're going to run into Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. Like, I don't know what world y'all are living in. This is a city with real people in it. All right? Down with the click said, we were talking about Janet long after you moved on. Y'all know I love me some Janet. I was just a little confused at why she spoke on what she didn't know. It is what it is. Life goes on. Maria said, Calvin, what kind of degree do you have? Journalism, you're so knowledgeable. Well, I don't know. They was just calling me stupid a few minutes ago. So no, my degree is in communication, specifically communication and culture, with a concentration in legal communication and a minor in political science. Right? Kira Skullark. California Black Caucus all needs to be voted out. They are a disgrace. They played so many games in our face with that reparations stuff. Oh, they were playing games over there. Woo! Playing games in our face. I'll tell you that. But thing I will say, and I said this on the last live, in all reality, neither party wants to give us reparations. Can we be honest here? Neither party wants to give it. Like, and when we're talking to the figures, right? Now, some figures are as low as 12 trillion, some are as high as 90 trillion. The thing is this, $90 trillion is triple the debt that we owe as a country, right? Big money, big money. They're not trying to pay that, right? And so that's why I feel like everybody continues to kick the can. And that's why all these studies keep coming out. Like, how much studying y'all got to do? I can tell you what the number is, right? But in all reality, I don't feel that either party wants to give reparations. But I do feel like if you had any element of leverage with one party when it comes to reparations, it would be the Democrat side, because Republicans are certainly not. They get pissed at just everyday people getting anything. So if you think Black people specifically getting something as compensation for how terribly treated we've been in regard to slavery and everything, they're not budging on it. So I think with reparations, it's a fight for the long haul. And I really want people to kind of understand. That's why I was saying, like, when we're even talking ideas of candidates, if you really want to have a shot at reparations ever becoming a thing, we have to actually have more candidates that are in positions of power, specifically elected positions, right? Because more judges, more folks in the House, in the Senate, at the state level. Like, you need enough representation with people who are actually about it. The problem is there's this big giant, it's not even an ask, this big giant demand for reparations that is owed, but we're not even asking it, we're demanding it from the very people who've been in office for 20, 30, 40 years, where that's never been their platform, it's never been anything they stood behind. And so there's a lot of people moving with the hopes, thinking that, you know, research and everything else will get these people to change their mind and shift. They're not shifting, which is why you have got to put people in there who come in to the game saying, well, this is what's needed, this is what people are asking for, these are the numbers, this is the research, this is the cause and effect. You need candidates and people to be elected who are already coming in the door with those viewpoints, not the ones who've been grandfathered in and been there for decades and decades and decades. They're never budging on that, because clearly at this point, until the Black voter electorate is larger or whatever, and can be a bit more detrimental to the careers of some of these politicians, they're not moving on that, right? So, and like I said, understand that reparations is a long haul journey. Might not even happen in our lifetime. I'm not trying to be that person to scare anybody, but until you can get enough butts in those seats, and I'm talking about all these elected positions and everything, and this could take years, right? It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of everything. Having the idea of thinking random business as usual candidates that are trying to run in office and represent everybody are going to magically say, yes, let's do reparations for all these. It's not really feasible. And then understand my position on reparations. I look at it from a federal standpoint. I think it should be federally managed. The idea of every state kind of having their own thing, to me, gets a little sketchy, because every state's gonna have their own way of doing things. And then some folks ain't getting nothing. Some folks gonna get too little. Chaos. That's just me. Oh yeah. Oh, somebody said y'all need to whack D.L. Hughley. D.L. Hughley tried it. Don't you ever in your life, especially the stuff that especially with his. We heard the story about what happened with the daughter and all. So GDL can be quiet on Janet. And stay mom on it, right? Somebody said, remember to drink water. Let's see here. All right, my chat is scroll. There we go. Okay. What else are we talking here? No, y'all still going with this? Let it go. We done moved on. All right. Louisiana, I just saw a post that I was trying to read. It fell off. Okay, sorry guys. Somebody said they're pissed at people getting health care, let alone reparations. And then when you realize that one of the only reasons we didn't get universal health care 40, 50 years ago is because there was an opportunity, meaning that people who were not white were going to get it. That's one of the reasons why universal health care has never really become a thing. There was an opportunity for it to happen 50, 60 years ago. Racism jumped in the way and said no. Somebody said, do you feel reparations can solve many problems? Ideally, it would get more representation in offices at levels. I do wonder how it would be divided and dispersed. I think one of the main reasons why reparations is a part of the conversation is we're talking about specifically the wealth gap and the amount of wealth that was built on the backs of Black oppression, right? And so there are groups that were able to skate and slide and make millions and billions and trillions collectively, all in the name of anti-Blackness. And there were so many programs that's just the slavery part. Then when you talk about the sharecropping and convict leasing and the black codes and the housing discrimination and being left out of the FHA program and the redlining and what was happening in education, all these different things, there's so many different claims that could be there. So it's about making different groups whole. And yeah, there's a bunch of conversations about how to put it out or who gets what. But I think before you can even get to that, there has to you got to at least get to the point where it becomes a thing first, right? Let's see. Somebody said we need term limits. I agree. BJ Hamilton said, why is it so important that Harris be perceived as Black? Like I said, I don't care. I just need somebody who's not crazy to be in office. I've never really been that pressed about what race she is. I can see if Kamala was running on like a specific platform that was really heavily centered on race. She hasn't really been super gung-ho locked into race, because she's more so just about like economics and everything else like that. So I don't know why this woman's race keeps coming up so much. And some of it to me is also, some of it is misogyny as well. I think there's a lot of men who don't like the idea of a woman possibly being in charge, especially in that kind of seat. That's what some of that's coming from. And then I think there's some other conversations in regard to race that are a little bit more nuanced. But yeah, let's see. Down with the click. The reparations conversation makes me scratch my head. Reparations in California would look completely different from reparations in Mississippi. This is why I said it should be a federal thing, because then when you're talking about state budgets and which states have resources to do what, you know, if Mississippi and California were giving out reparations, I certainly would want to be one of the people living in California, because California has more to give out. Like that's how, and California also has a smaller Black population. So I would be pressed to be a California resident as opposed to Mississippi in that moment. That's why I think it should be a federal thing, right? Somebody said, whiteness brought up her race. Okay. This is a very interesting chat tonight. Interesting. Okay, we got to keep going. Eric Adams. All right. Let me read this article really quick. Eric Adams. Feds charge New York City mayor with selling his influence to foreign nationals. He says he won't resign. New York City Mayor Eric Adams vowed to stay in office Thursday after federal prosecutors unsealed an indictment accusing him of letting Turkish officials and business people buy his influence with illegal campaign contributions and lavish overseas trips. Adams, a Democrat, faces conspiracy, wire fraud, and bribery charges in a 5-count indictment outlining a decade-long trail of corruption that began when he served as an elected official in Brooklyn and continued through his mayoral administration. Among other things, prosecutors say Adams received free and steeply discounted flight upgrades valued at more than $100,000, free stays in opulent hotel suites and expensive meals, as well as campaign contributions from straw donors, some of which helped him qualify for more than $10 million in matching public campaign funds. I want to be clear. These upgrades and freebies were not part of some frequent flyer or benefits program available to the general public. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said at a news conference, this was a multi-year scheme to buy favor from a single New York City official on the rise. In exchange for bribes, Adams took actions appeared to benefit Turkey's leaders, including expediting the fire safety inspection at a consulate building and not releasing a statement on Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day, according to the indictment. Adams had a duty to disclose gifts he received, but year after year kept the public in the dark, the U.S. Attorney said. Speaking outside of Gracie Madison, Adams denied wrongdoing and said he doesn't plan to resign, flanked by prominent Black clergy members. I asked New Yorkers to wait to hear our defense before making any judgments, he said. From here, my attorneys can take care of the case so I can take care of the city. The indictment brought a stunning crescendo to the drumbeat of federal investigations that has engulfed the mayor and his top aides in recent weeks, prompting resignations from his police commissioner, school chancellor, and top legal advisor. While Adams faced calls to resign from Republicans and several of his likely opponents in next June's mayoral primary, top Democrats such as Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries stopped short of asking him to step down and instead said the legal process should play out. If Adams were to resign, he would immediately be replaced by Jermaine Williams, a progressive Democrat who serves as a city's public advocate. Williams would then schedule a special election. In a statement Thursday, Williams said Adams' time to show he can effectively govern and regain the city's trust is rapidly running out. All right. As far as Eric Adams, I've never been a fan. And if you follow me, I've told you I haven't been really crazy over him. There's just a lot of things. To me, he represents somebody who was running New York City like it was still 1996, right? Just a very outdated approach. I felt some kind of way where it's like you were going to defund the public libraries, but you over here taking $10 million, right? You cut $560 million from the pre-K budget, right? This was free pre-K for New York residents. And then, mind you, hundreds of millions were already owed to New York residents in regard to different like vouchers and everything with that program. But you were going to cut $567 million from it because of budget cuts, right? It's just interesting when he introduced his budget with what he was going to cut. So many of the cuts were things that were detrimental to the working class. And that's why I looked at him very sideways, because I was like, all your friends are getting everything, but the people that matter, they're a little beneath you, right? And then the idea of criminalizing homelessness in a city that's so expensive to live in to begin with. Now, I will say this, though. In the same way that they're going after him for these gifts, I know a Supreme Court justice that has been paid very, very well that I think they need to start looking at as well, Clarence. That's all I'm saying. We'll see how that goes. But no, Eric has not. I don't know. Eric's been the minute when he got in office and he said he was going to make it sexy again to be. I said, yeah, he's on some nonsense. We'll see how this goes. All right, let's see what we got going on in the chat. I just feel like he's been in the way for a lot of like progress for Black people collectively in New York. There's some things he got right, but there's a lot of things he got wrong. So I just haven't been a fan. Now, New Yorkers, y'all actually live there. Y'all can correct me in the chat and clear up some things, but I just haven't seen a whole lot to be excited about. Somebody said educated Black people don't care that Kamala is Black or not for real. We're just out of options. All I'm saying is I would be damned if we fast forward 2 years from now. Let's just say Orange Man got in there and, now police have qualified immunity and all these different things. And the reason we got to deal with the nonsense was because, well, she wasn't Black. That would be a really stupid reason to put Cuckoo Man in there. Like if you're going to not like the lady, not like her for whatever the policy is, not because of identity politics in that realm, right? Right. Yeah. Somebody said, well, dang, Eric did to Clarence Thomas. Oh, I forgot about that course correction. Somebody said, wasn't there a Chinese spy found in the governor's office? Yeah, that was what, like last week, I think, or the week before. And then, like, in those text messages Adams had, like, there's one part in there where, like, if you read the full deposition, it's like, I forgot how many pages it is, but it's like they got text message conversations. They got a bunch of stuff. I'm like, you looking real suspect here. But now I will say, like, even though I'm whacking this guy, what Eric Adams is doing is what so many elected politicians are doing and getting away with all the time. So I would like to see this energy across the board for a lot of these other folks, including folks in Congress, right? Folks at some of these elected in these elected positions, some of these people who are judges, like there's a lot of folks who are doing exactly the same thing. The The problem with Eric Adams is he's such a high-profile public figure. He was sloppy with his nonsense. So I'm like, go and get all these other folks too. Let's get everybody. Everybody need to catch it. Let's see. Oh my God, y'all are still on this Kamala thing. Jesus. Okay. In this conversation of blackness, and then we're moving on. I think the conversation most people are having when they're saying blackness is a conversation of lineage, right? That's where I think the conversation is going. Conversation of lineage. She has the black brown skin, but I think when people are talking about where her parents are from, the parents have a different experience from people who would have been in the United States and have a lineage to U.S. chattel slavery. That's kind of one of the conversations I think a lot of people have in regard to how they see her as black. This goes back to what I said a whole lot earlier, where I said there's so many conversations in regard to race because there are so many moving parts, right? Like we said, conversations of flat blackness or lineage or delineation, or like there's so many bits that could be said. And this is why we have the issue, right? Because nobody can really agree on the conversation of what constitutes under these terms, because everybody can't agree on anything. That's really the issue. And that's why it's still going. I have no idea why, but Lord. All right. Okay. Mark Robinson. This is some wild times in politics. All right, let's go to North Carolina for a second. Boom, boom, boom. All right, Mark. Where are we here? Okay. Mark Robinson's top staffer resigns following the CNN report. Top staffer to Mark Robinson, North Carolina's embattled lieutenant governor, is set to resign following a CNN K-File report that Robinson made inflammatory and racist remarks on a pornography website's message board. Brian Levici, Robinson's chief of staff and general counsel, will resign in the coming week, according to a source familiar with the matter. His departure is the latest in a series of high-profile resignations of Robinson staffers in the wake of CNN's report last week. Robinson, who is the Republican nominee for governor of North Carolina, already lost most of his campaign staff when they resigned on Sunday, including his campaign manager, deputy campaign manager, finance director, and senior advisor and general consultant. New York Times and WRAL reported on Wednesday that Robinson's policy director, communications director, and director of government affairs had also resigned. CNN reached out to those staff members, but has not heard back. Robinson announced a new chief of staff on Twitter, on Thursday morning, saying he had elevated Krishana Polite to his deputy chief of staff to the top position. Robinson's lewd comments included describing himself as a black Nazi, describing how he used to go peeping on women at the public gym when he was 14 years old, and expressing his support for reinstating slavery on the pornographic website Nude Africa. Robinson listed his full name Robinson listed his full name on his profile for Nude Africa, as well as an email address he used on numerous websites across the internet for decades. In an interview with CNN, Robinson repeatedly denied that he made the comments on Nude Africa. This is not us. These are not our words. And this is not anything that is characteristic of me, Robinson said. Presented with a litany of evidence connecting him with the username on Nude Africa, Robinson said, I'm not going to get into the minutia of how somebody manufactured these salacious tabloid lies. Now, when he's talking about things against his character, sir, I'm sorry. Literally everything you have said publicly aligns with everything in that story. That dude, North Carolina, y'all better act like you got some sense with that gubernatorial race, because if y'all put him in there, good luck. That dude is crazy. And then the idea of saying reinstating slavery, right? Because you got some weird fetish. It's a lot. You ever wonder how some people make it this far in politics to this kind of stage? Like, this man has the possibility to be the most powerful person in North Carolina, right? And it's not even just about that. Like, when you're just talking and seeing about all of his different views and the things that he's said and done in the last few months, it's crazy. It's to the point where even Trump is like trying to disassociate. Like, oh, I don't know him. I just saw that interview where they're asking him about Mark Robinson. He said, oh, I don't know anything about that. That's one thing Trump is going to do. And he don't want to be around somebody he never heard of him. All right. Wild. All right. All right, where we at here? All right, y'all can sit here and argue about this. We done moved on. All right. Hey, Bibby said, this is what should be on everyone's topic list, not celebrity BS. Corpse buying up livable property. Yeah, we talk about the private equity firms, raising costs, pushing out the locals, plenty of empty buildings in rural areas. Like, there's so much stuff going on. Somebody said, okay, nude Africa. Nude Africa. All right. Look, Mark over there having him a time. And I wonder what his wife has to say in all of this. I really wonder what the wife has to say. And when you're looking at Mark Robinson's, a lot of what he's getting behind, a lot of his policy is detrimental to Black people collectively. He is a mouthpiece for white supremacy. He is moving in the same way that Tim Scott is moving, but he's like an extremity of Tim Scott. Tim Scott at least pretends to be likable, tries, right? His policy is terrible. His viewpoints are terrible. But Mark Robinson is freaking, that dude is Lord. North Carolina, act like y'all got some sense in November, please. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Speaking of disinformation, all right, there's a lot of weird things floating around. I just want people, again, to kind of have some discernment with what folks get behind. So I got a whole bunch of messages because people were telling me to talk about the Kim Porter book. And I was like, what book did Kim Porter write? So then when I finally looked up what everybody was talking about, there's some random video of somebody turning some pages of some book that Kim had allegedly wrote. And I was like, I know this is fake, right? And then what's interesting, because before I could even really jump into all of that, like the story had already been debunked, right? There was somebody who pretty much wrote it. And it says, let's see, author behind viral Kim Porter memoir admits he isn't sure if the story is real. It's real enough to me. An alleged Kim Porter memoir has taken the internet by storm, and now the author of this book has admitted he isn't sure of its validity. The 59-page book titled Kim's Lost Words, A Journey for Justice from the Other Side, was self-published by Chris Todd, who released the book under the alias Jamal T. Millwood. He does not have any other titles on Amazon, yet Kim's Lost Words has become a bestseller. The numerous typos in the book and egregious claims have not deterred people from taking the book at face value. Todd finally broke his silence on Rolling Stone, confessing that he cannot be sure if anything in the publication is true. If somebody put my feet to the fire and they said, life or death, is that book real? I have to say, I don't know. But it's real enough to me. Todd boldly told the outlet, sometimes you just have to put it out there. Maybe not 100% of the book is true, but maybe 80% is. That is to get those people to come forward and either corroborate or deny the claims. And that helps me as an investigator to know the truth. That makes no sense to me, but okay. Todd claims to be a producer and author and investigative journalist, allegedly have solved many pop culture crimes. All right, tell us who killed Tupac. Though none of his assertions can be substantiated, he told the outlet that the memoir ended up in his hands shortly after Sean Diddy Combs settled with Cassie. However, Todd will not say how or if he could fact check any of the claims made in the book, right? So like I was saying, it's just all these different moments and movements where people are coming out here saying anything. Between this and the lady that claimed to be the daughter of Aaliyah and R. Kelly and found her way on all these platforms, and then you already know who jumped on it. That the same lady I told y'all to stop running behind, the Jaguar Wright, jumped on that. Now, y'all folks can get mad. Listen, when it comes to Jaguar Wright, my question is this. I get, because people always say, well, you don't get it. She was in the industry parties. I'm like, yeah, back in 2002 and 2003. You can't possibly tell me that events happening in 2024 and 2023 she has insight on, because understand at this point she's been on the podcast and blog circuit for the last 3 or 4 years. So anybody with common sense, even if they were doing something in the wrong at this point, they're going to make sure they don't have her around because they know she's going to go and talk about it. So when people keep trying to feel that somehow she has all this insight about the industry, I'm like, respectfully, she was in the industry for like a handful of years, never got a lot of access to a lot of things because she didn't quite all the way blow up. And so now her claim to fame at this moment is going to these different platforms and saying Lord knows what. I also feel that she's kind of battling a few mental health issues, and people are taking advantage of that because they know that she's going to go on their platform and say any and everything, right? And it's going to make them a whole lot of money, right? And so it's kind of like, just be careful with what folks latch onto. Like, so again, with this conversation that all the disinformation that's floating out there and misinformation, it's just a very interesting time. It's even like, even when I'm about to get to Diddy, but even with Diddy, right? Now the next thing I'm seeing is every time somebody posts a picture of somebody with Diddy, all of a sudden the assumption is they too were doing the freak offs. And I'm like, y'all realize that Diddy was a media mogul and a socialite as well as an entertainer for the last 30 years and always hosted parties. So most likely, probably every celebrity you know has a picture with this man, right? That's not the crime. If you went to some all white party on a yacht at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, that's not the crime, right? But it's interesting. A lot of people are like really pressed to kind of latch on to all these different conspiracies and paint everybody. Like somebody had posted Aretha Franklin and Diddy, and I said, now what's Aretha Franklin gonna be doing with Diddy? What y'all think Aretha Franklin was oiling up with the baby oil too? Like what is going on? What is in the water here, right? All right, I'm gonna pause for 1 sec and go from there. Yes, Nude Africa. Ain't that something there? That's a name there. Somebody say good news is that he's trailing his opponent, and even Trump just said, "I don't know." See what I say? Orange man, be like, I don't know you. Somebody say you can track emails to every account. Yes, that means your old Black Planet profiles. Like I got like 5 email addresses, but I still have my first email address from when I was in 4th grade. I still be using it too, on occasion. But that email is specifically for like subscriptions and like you subscribe to like New York Times and stuff, so I can do all my little research and crap. That's what that's for, right? I don't use it for any business inquiries anymore. But yeah, let's see. Somebody said, "Boy, you must be tired. You've been running through my mind all day." I heard that joke on Fresh Prince before. I remember that episode. Okay. Let's see. Somebody said that girl looks nothing like either of them. I was like, I think what pisses me off, especially, and this is about Aaliyah. This is the lady claiming to be her daughter, and she's on some BS. I hate that woman's like, y'all will not let that woman rest in peace. Her name comes up so much every time y'all are trying to vilify some other random celebrity, or because y'all got it's like all these different people y'all want to take down, and somehow y'all keep using her. Like, if there's somebody who has never been able to rest in peace, it's Aaliyah. And I think it's really sad. Like, she is weaponized in so many things. When people want to argue about Beyonce, they use Aaliyah. They left Aaliyah didn't pass. Beyonce, they make that argument, which I don't agree with at all. I feel like both would have been able to exist because they both existed at the same time. While Aaliyah was enjoying Try Again, Destiny's Child was enjoying The Writings on the Wall, an album that sold 8 or 9 million copies in the US. In the same way that Aaliyah's Try Again became the first song to go to #1 just off radio play. They existed at the same time, right? If you're going to make the argument of who may have, I don't like to say the term replace. I think that argument more so would have gone to somebody like an Ashanti, who kind of became the next it girl shortly after her passing. It's not saying she replaced anybody or she falls in the same lane, but Ashanti was the new face at the time. Beyonce had already been there. That's the weirdest thing I hear. But going back, like, there's all these different claims about Aaliyah this, and it's like, please let that lady rest. Y'all, ooh. It has to be hard to be in her family because she comes up every 5 minutes. Somebody said people in the circle still get updates within the circle. Freddie P said he still gets updates from within the circle. I think if that's in regard to Jaguar, right? I don't think her circle has the same kind of access, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I feel like, yeah, maybe anything that she's talking about between about 2002 and I'll even say up to 2007 might have some validity. But when we start getting in 2024 and stuff, like even some of the stuff I heard her say about Meg Thee Stallion, I was like, okay, okay. I mean, this was tying to murder plots and everything. I'm like, she's not well. Sorry. And I just think people have to stop platforming her. Because and really it's people. I get it. People, this social media thing is an interesting bubble because everybody's trying to get on, right? YouTube is oversaturated, so everybody's trying to have their channel blow up. The podcasting world is oversaturated. Everybody wants their podcast to blow up. So I get it, but it's like, come on, let's not just start putting anything out there. Oh, I'm supposed to be talking about Diddy. Um, did I even? I don't even think I was reading the article. I was just gonna say my 2 cents and keep it moving. Um, yeah, I didn't even take an article for him. I think when it comes to Diddy, I think folks need to focus on the pieces that actually matter. Like the case is specifically more so centered around the idea of human trafficking and drugging different folks to sexually assault them, all that kind of bit. That is where the case should be focused. I think people are kind of latching onto a bunch of additional things and trying to create these big, massive stories. So again, folks can have their clout and go viral and build their platforms, right? The conversation is more so centered around the idea of consent, right? It's not necessarily about whether he had parties or if they were free. Even if he hosted sex parties, there's nothing illegal about that as long as everybody is consenting. This is why I said the conversation goes back to the idea of consent, and were people held against their will or forced to do things that they did not want to partake in? Were people given substances to influence their decisions in that space? That's the conversation. The conversation of trafficking, where people brought across state lines for the sole purpose of meeting these sexual desires, of paying, participants. Like that's the conversation, right? So I know everybody was talking about the 1,000 bottles of baby oil and this and that. I guess, but that to me is not the important aspect in this conversation. In the same realm that people, again, like I said, are taking pictures of Diddy at the Grammy Awards, sitting next to whoever, and now people are saying, well, all these people did it too. Again, it goes back to the fact that this man has been a socialite for 30 plus years. Everybody who's somebody's going to have a picture with him. The question becomes, everybody who's somebody's, when they were at these parties, did they partake in some of the shenanigans that Diddy is now being charged for? That's the question, not whether or not they went to the party, right? That's kind of where a lot of this is going. It's a very, very interesting time, right? Because you see a lot of folks just getting taken down. Like Harvey Weinstein's got some new charges against him. You got the Diddy stuff going on. I think Russell Simmons, they about to get him soon enough. As soon as there's a slip up and they can get him in Bali, he's next. Who else? They're getting everybody. Like a lot of folks, it's been a time, right? It has been a time. Let me see a few comments here. They're talking about blackmail tapes, video, all kind of stuff. Let's see. But Nina Gardner said that's what a lot of YouTubers do, just BS out there for ratings. I know y'all be mad at me because I'm not really a breaking news kind of channel. By the time we talk about something, it's already happened for a few days. I try to wait to kind of let the story build so I can get better context. Which is why I always be like, don't come to me if it's breaking news. I'm probably not the right channel. Somebody said, you ain't got to talk about Diddy for real. That man is going to the lowest circle of hell. And see, in any grace Diddy would have had with me ended once that video came out with him beating that girl in the hallway, beating Cassie. I was like, what the heck? Jesus. Somebody, thank you, Lil Eye 3D. On a positive note, enjoying your new albums. Come through with the Prince, Janet, and TLC influence. See, that's why I don't know why the Janet fans are whacking me, because everybody knows my favorite person in the world is Janet. So I can say how I feel. This is a family conversation. We have an in-house conversation with the relatives, right? Thank you for that. We'll talk about the album towards the end of the live. I was trying to lock in on all the topics, but I do appreciate those who've been enjoying it. Got a lot of really great commentary, so thank you. Poison Ivy. What up, Poison Ivy? This is what happens when we devalue journalism. You replace it with bloggers and get articles that the National Enquirer wouldn't even publish. And we're in such an interesting time too, because think about anybody who's kind of in my age bracket, meaning like you were raised in the 90s, early 2000s. Like remember, or even before that, even if you were raised in the 80s, and I don't know about the 70s, but I'll say the 80s at least. Remember like how when you go to the grocery store and they have all those like tabloid magazines, you know that they're all like nonsense, but some people would read them just for entertainment, but they didn't take them at face value. We're now in a space where like blogging and the internet presence, even things on TikTok, has kind of replaced tabloids. But the problem is people now look at all of that as truth right away, which is why there's so many rumors that can easily come out and destroy people right away all the freaking time. It's very interesting. Like when you just see that people can make whole like documentaries out of thin air with no credible sources, no references, no anything. And people will flock and watch these things and then pass it off as truth and say it's reality. That is wild to me, right? It is wild. And then again, when we're talking about our mainstream news sites and mainstream media, so many of those entities are so bought out and compromised. It's like you don't even really know who you can really get behind anymore because there's so much nonsense out there. Corporate greed has ruined journalism. destroy journalism. Like, and you know what's wild too? Like, think about, so even like now with Hurricane Helene, right? There are probably publications right now that have articles saying the best ways to stay safe during this storm. But when you click the article, you got to go through a paywall, right? In order to find out how to not die in a storm, you're gonna have to pay us $9.99 before for us to tell you. Like, that's wild to me. So there's a lot going on. Jerome Morrow says straight hearsay. It is a lot of nonsense going on. Thank you, Loretta Banks. I appreciate it. And that Diddy indictment, ooh, that many pages. Okay. Hmm. Make it make sense. Folks doing a whole lot out here. March, exactly, Calvin. 100%. People have probably gotten drugged and violated. We got to worry about them and not some damn baby oil, right? And I think the issue really what had, you know, what's interesting with the conversations around like Diddy and some of these other people who have these accusations. It's always interesting that a lot of times people bypass the actual crime and they start paying attention to like the sexuality, like trying to figure out if these people were with same sex or if they were doing like, you know, sometimes, you know, people are sexually fluid and have their fun with everybody. Like, it's interesting that those end up being the parts that everybody harps on and wants to lock into. Because with Diddy's situation, the first thing that happened is everybody had a field day with Meek Mill, right? Which is very interesting to me to see, like, just how people move and what people want to place high importance on. Like, that's the part that's scary. Somebody said family can disagree with human. Exactly. Don with the click said, I never believed National Enquirer, but I always read the headlines. I was the same way as a kid. Like, I knew that that magazine was some nonsense, but you know, while you standing there waiting for them to load everything on the little owl thing, you know, you sit there and kind of read all the articles, and you know, it would have random articles like, "Oh, Oprah's gonna die tomorrow." I'm like, okay, where y'all get that from? Right? Wild stuff. Let me not put that in the universe. All right. Let's see. Oh, Michael Eric Dyson. Gina Will, I didn't even think to write that down, but oh, he get on my he made me so mad with that. Nancy Mace, right? Then called the woman racist and everything, and then you in the woman's DMs. So, ooh, don't be the weakest link. Oh, I said the kind of public profile you have, all this blackity black, and you're married, and then you jump in this white woman's DMs and full enough, and the fact that she screenshotted him, now you look crazy. Michael Eric Dyson, why? Why? Mm-mm-mm. Make it make sense. Okay, I got a few other bits to cover. Oh, we're making good time. Okay, good. We might actually be under 3 hours tonight. Thank God. I'd be up here holding y'all hostage all night. Y'all still in this baby oil. Okay. I just hope they weren't using the baby oil as lubricants because that's what actually breaks the condoms. So I hope they weren't trying to do that. But okay. Um, I don't know. It might have been something you know, the aesthetic of oiled up bodies. I don't know. They having them a time over there, right? Okay, with the young Dolph case, right? And mind you, that case came so quickly. Justin Johnson. Now, this is the person who was convicted, right? He was convicted of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Was convicted of first-degree murder, and also convicted of being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm. And he's been sentenced to life without, yeah, I believe he's facing the sentencing of life without the possibility of parole. Can I tell you what the wildest part of all of that is to me? When I heard it, not heard, because now I'm sounding crazy. When I read in the articles that specifically he had been told that he would receive $40,000 for taking out young Dolph, and then he only received 800, and that's one of the reasons why you run into some of the issues we have, and people started snitching on each other. To me, that is wild. That all it took was $40,000 for you to go and take somebody out. The value that we don't put on other lives anymore is wild to me. And so the fact is, you just ruined your entire life. Never mind the fact you killed somebody else and effed it up for their family. You killed somebody for $800. If that ain't some back alley type mess, like what? You just threw your whole life away over some $800. Like, you were better off coming up with a scheme and a GoFundMe and making up a fake sob story and getting some money that way. $800. But again, $40,000 to go and kill somebody. This is exactly what we be seeing on the ID channel when them folks be killing their spouses for a $30,000 insurance policy. That is wild to me, right? I That's crazy. $800, $40,000. Like, I love money like everybody else, but what is the threshold of common sense here? That's the question I got. Like, how? Somebody make it make sense. Somebody was asking me about Brett Favre and saying, is he getting what he deserves? Because, he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's. The one thing I always want to steer clear from is, because Brett Favre, all the smoke for him, right? He done stole all that money out of the public taxpayer dollars in regard to welfare programs for Black Mississippians. However, when it comes to like diseases and everything, I don't like the idea of weaponizing that as punishment, because what about the people who have those diseases or conditions that haven't done anything wrong, but life just happened to life for them? So no, I wouldn't say Parkinson's that's what he gets, because I don't think it's fair to people with Parkinson's that haven't done anything wrong, lived their best life, or some of the best people, and unfortunately they were diagnosed with Parkinson's. And people sometimes do that, like folks get cancer or lupus or sickle cell or whatever it is. I don't like the idea of painting any kind of health condition as a punishment. That's what you get, because I don't think it's fair to the people who technically are great people and do great things, and Mother Nature chooses. It's like a spin the wheel random selection. You've been selected, unfortunately. So with Brett Favre, if there's any smoke, I still think he needs some smoke for everything he's done in regard to stealing all that money. Where are the charges? That's the part I'm waiting for. But I wouldn't want to whack those who have Parkinson's all in favor of me getting my licking on Brett Favre. That's how I see it. All right, let's see some comments here. What up, Natural Empress? Oh, Dr. Danny B, you know what? You're probably right. Said you probably didn't use condoms. You're probably absolutely right. Oh, somebody said, why is no one talking about his involvement with Justin Bieber, Usher, and teenagers and others who we don't know about? This is the most disturbing. I purposely am trying to make sure I'm not putting any wrong information out there, but I do think this opens some really big conversations, because everybody knows, especially specifically, I know some of the Usher story, Justin Bieber, I've never really paid attention to, but I know for sure it's no secret, because Usher's talked about it, that, when Usher did his first era, they had him living with Diddy, right? And Diddy was supposed to show him the works on how the business operated and stuff, but they had Usher at all kind of wild parties and all kind of different things. So who knows where these conversations are going to end up, right? Star Cherry said, everyone is misquoting an article. The FBI found 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. There we go. Somebody said, and Brashear Gray. Who is that? I know that name. Who's Brashear Gray? Brashear Gray. Let's go to Google. Bashir. Oh, wait, that's the boy from Empire. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I think somebody might have laced something he took. I think his mind is gone a little bit. Mark said, wait, homie didn't even get paid in full? $800 to ruin your life and somebody else's and their families. $800. Exactly. Killed that man while he was getting cookies. Despicable. I agree. Somebody said Empire had Jussie Smollett in it. Ariel, hi Calvin. What is more scary for Black Americans, a Diddy freak off or Project 2025? See, now we're having a real conversation here that is already killing Black women. Like we said, yes. Let us keep the focus. Lauren said, "Oh, did you talk about Janet?" Yeah, we did. Avocado Queen, what up? She said, "There's an old video of Diddler asking Justin why he hasn't heard from him, and you can see when Justin answered, he was uncomfortable. It's cringe to watch." Did he make a lot of people uncomfortable to begin with? Yeah. You know what sucks too? One of my favorite things I used to love telling people is that I had the same dorm room as Diddy when I was at Howard, right? I used to wear that as a badge of honor because it was like, I really enjoy music. And I'm like, it's a sign, right? Like, the music mogul, I had the same dorm room as him. And then now the way I don't even bring that up no more. Even Howard University be acting like they don't know who Diddy is no more. They like, no, he did not speak at our commencement. No, we don't know him. Like, Lord. Let's see. Yes, I don't claim that one no more. I got to keep it to myself. I knew Belize guy was gonna come in here ready to whack my lady. Come in here and start whacking my girl. All right. A few other things too. This was an interesting clip, but I'm like, okay, finally we're getting somewhere. T.I. and Boosie. Now, these are two people I'm not crazy over. However, there's a clip of the two of them fussing at their sons. Both of their sons do music, right? You got King Harris and there's Tootie Raw. And they were having like a video shoot and got the guns and the weapons. And Boosie and T.I. were pissed. Like, what are y'all doing out here with all these weapons and stuff? What image are you trying to push out there? And it's so funny. I always call like kids who grow up rich or kids who grow up really well off and have loving homes and gated communities, and parents bought them their first car, and their first car is actually a nice car, and there may even be deer in their neighborhood. I always call it the silver spoon goons, right? Kids in the suburbs that want to be super, super hard for no apparent reason. So it's interesting because with both of them, it's like we've seen that you both have grown up with everything. So why are you still trying to portray the image that you were from the streets? You are not. And it's okay, right? It is okay. But I actually, for a change, I was like, finally, I can actually almost high-five the two of them for finally having a real conversation about some things. But it was really interesting to see, like, yeah, because why do y'all have guns in these videos? This is not even the kind of life that y'all live at all, right? Crazy. Let me see here. Somebody's asking me about Shannon Sharpe. I saw the interaction he had with that lady. First of all, the idea, I think it's tacky, especially, okay, this is how I see things. Now, I know y'all going to be like, well, you was just talking about Janet a minute ago. But I feel like as Black public figures, especially if you're an entertainer or an athlete or whatever, I always side-eye you, especially like if it's like saying something that's kind of like anti-Black women-ish, right? So talking to that woman and all of a sudden talking about her having horse hair, it's like, first of all, that's a very 1994 kind of joke, but it just kind of made me look at him real different. That's like the fourth or fifth time he done did something real out of pocket where I'm like, Shannon, I don't know about you. Like, I used to really ride behind Shannon back in the day, especially when he was on ESPN, because I used to enjoy how much he used to cook everybody. But everybody being real weird right now. I don't like it. Everybody getting on my nerves, right? I don't know. Let's see. I got two more. Oh, don't ask me about Cardi and Offset. I don't care. But I will say celebrities, all these celebrities, just put all y'all issues in the music. Yeah, write a song about it, send it out, and do it that way. All these celebrities, we're in your houses too much. I'm not trying to know all y'all business and breakups, and I don't care. So yeah. All right. Let's see. KO said Diddy went to college. Yeah, Diddy went to Howard University, I think, for 2 years. And while he was in his sophomore year, that's when he got the job at Uptown Records. So he left to go do A&R. And then that's how we got Jodeci. Somebody said, course correction. Oh, no, Calvin, there weren't any Howard stories about him. I never heard any crazy stories about Diddy at Howard. But also, I wasn't at Howard when he was there. Like, I would have got to Howard, like, 15 years later. So even people who would have been around wouldn't have been there anymore, including most of the faculty and staff, right? So, yeah. Nikita Clark, which is why we shouldn't put these celebs on a pedestal. Exactly. I just enjoy them for the entertainment and leave it at that. Have a great time at the concerts. All right. All right. Bryson Stanley said T.I. and Tiny have been accused of sex trafficking. I saw that case had been thrown out recently. I have to go and look at the update with that, but I know they're happy because I know they just got that what $17 million settlement in regard to the OMG girls. I know they're having a good week this week. Yes, silver spoon goons. That's the term. Because it just reminds me of kids I grew up around. Like, I didn't grow up rich or anything, but I grew up in a neighborhood where, I've never had to want for anything financially as a kid because my parents were pretty okay, right? And so it would be so interesting being where I was from, and some of the most hardcore folks you would have ever met came out of Spanaway. And I'm like, we walked past a pond to walk to middle school. There are deer and sage hen walking on the side of the street. Like, there's nothing but evergreen trees outside in this beautiful landscape of Mount Rainier. Please tell me how this has turned into New Jack City, right? Like, it used to just entertain me. And then we were so corny. Like, Spanaway had nicknames. Like, first of all, Spanaway, it was called the Sway. Somebody tried to call it Spanahood. And then Tacoma, which was nearby, folks used to call it Compton. I was like, guys, it's okay. It's okay. Like, it's another conversation for another day. It goes back to the idea of, I think, when you're in spaces where there's not a large Black collective and people are thriving and wanting an element of Black culture or something to center themselves in, a lot of times people will latch onto whatever tropes are there because there's not enough examples every day outside when the only time you see Black folks are the barbershop and church. That's another conversation, though. All right. Somebody said I stand with Janet. Shout out to her. Yeah, I don't think y'all gonna be able to cancel no Janet Jackson. Let's see. Somebody said I'm happy. Dang it! What? How come when I'm ready to read a comment, the chat always jumps? I just saw it a second ago. I'm going back because I was trying to. I don't like when I'm halfway through the sentence and something changes. I just saw. Okay, well, whoever it was, they were saying something about they're happy. Shannon Sharpe had won the defamation suit against what's his name, but Shannon's been acting crazy. It was something like that, but for some reason the comment just skipped. I tried to find it. I couldn't find it. Where are we here? Oh, well, say Calvin isn't that old. Well, how old did y'all make me? I ain't that old. I know I'll be acting like an old person, but yeah, I ain't that old. Folks be aging me up. Calvin, what do you think about the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio suing 45 and Vance? Rightfully so. And understand, like, I think a lot of times when we're talking like white nationalism and anti-Blackness and everything like that to begin with, a lot of times when people are in a losing battle, they start grasping for straws and throwing anything out there. The craziest part about everything surrounding Springfield is, one, first of all, when we're talking about the lies that are thrown out there, somehow it was 20,000 of them out there doing Lord knows what, when in reality it was like, what was it, 5,000 who would come there, and mind you, they were all legally there. They're legal immigrants, and they were brought there to help the economy, to help fill in some of the jobs that were not fulfilled. Then all of a sudden, because now folks want to lash on the whiteness again because they start getting nervous, now all of a sudden you want to paint this narrative that they're out here eating cats and dogs and stuff, and then doubling down. And then when JD Vance was pressed about it, and he said, well, he can't confirm everything, but he put the story out there to make the media have to start telling the truth. Like, no, that's some nonsense, right? JD Vance, I don't know how that he was chosen as a running mate, first of all, because I don't know who did the vetting. They dropped the ball on that. I hope that person was let go, because dang it, I'd be pissed if JD was my running mate, because every day JD's saying something out of pocket. But no, that's some nonsense. So rightfully so for them. And the reason why it's an issue is when you vilify an entire collective of people and you harp into the rage and the emotions of people who tend to be fearful of the other. Really, it's just they racist and need a reason to be mad, right? It stirs the pot. Remember, like, going back to the very, very, very first YouTube blog I ever did, we always talk about Bethany Storrell, right? 2010, Vancouver, Washington, which is a town that kind of borders Oregon. It's a town that's not really diverse, right? I think it's a town where at the time in 2010, the black population was less than 2%. Bethany Storer is this woman who somehow ends up at a hospital. Her whole face is burned, like all the skin and stuff is peeling off. She talks to the media and she claims that she was attacked by a black woman who threw acid in her face, right? And so here comes the media storm. Here comes the police investigations. People are doing search parties and looking for a black woman that fits the description. And again, in a town like Vancouver, where there's only so many black folks to begin with, imagine the experience of what it must be like to be a black woman in that town. Then it turns out Bethany was lying. Bethany just wanted to get the attention of one of her exes that was no longer dealing with her. And so she created this entire tragedy so she could get some sympathy. And she threw acid on her own face. I found a way to blame it on a black person, right? So when I hear random stories like, the Haitians are doing it, nonsense, absolute nonsense. And I think that was a really stupid approach too, especially with Trump aligning with that too. Because again, there are 300,000 or 400,000 Haitians in Florida. Good luck, right? That's a state it's a state that is actually in play this year. So if there's any collective you probably didn't want to piss off, it might have been the Haitian community. And again, it goes back to this idea of kind of how we vilify groups that are coming from all these different countries. And I'm like, at this point, if any group has come from a country that the U.S. has played a role with regard to destroying their government or leading a coup or taking over their national currency and taking over their national bank, I feel like the idea of trying to paint anybody to be a monster is like the nerve. The nerve. Quit playing with people. And then the other problem with that, too, is when you're talking about Springfield, Ohio, pretty much anybody who looks like me, right, is now at the risk of having to deal with the nonsense of racist white folks over there who want to paint the idea of Haitians being, these random things that are eating cats and dogs, right? And when you look at just how stupid and how much the story spread, right, there's an image of a black man who's carrying a dead Canadian goose that was hit by a car, and somehow that turned into, look, he's getting ready to cook they're taking the Canadian geese, they're getting ready to go fry them up, right, make some Peking duck, right? So it's just seeing the wildness of all that. And then again, what that means for anybody who has black skin in that area, now you have to be somebody who's prone to the nonsense of other people's ignorance, right? That's why I was saying earlier in this live that you have to be careful with the things that you say and put out there, even if you don't know. It's probably best not to share things that you don't have insight on, right? Nonsense. That's just them latching on to whiteness and trying to stoke white fear in order to get people to vote. Did I have anything else? Okay, that's everything. All right. Yes, Brett Favre had some nerve. A whole lot of it. Somebody said, if you're in Vancouver, Washington, it's likely you are the only chip in the cook. And honestly, that's really what it's like over there. That's a town we just drove through. We didn't even stop. Okay. So, woo. Somebody said Vance is uneducated and foolish. And Vance is he's an example of somebody that's been able to fail up. He's literally only worked for one person his whole life, and everything has been handed to him. And somehow he is now in a space where he might get to be the vice president of the U.S. And in the event that, Orange Man wins and croaks at the same time, this man might become president. That's wild to me. Dr. Danny B said Vance admitted that he lied, so he may have a case, which I do think they do have a case on this one, right? When you're talking about just the cause and effect. At least for a civil case, at least. And I know in the state of Ohio, I was reading something about how they have a clause where citizens can actually push for certain charges to be brought against certain. Let me pause and actually get it correct before I say it. See how we move here. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Ohio, or maybe it's Springfield. Ohio clause, citizen charge. I wonder if I can find this. Section 2935.04, when any person may arrest. When a felony has been committed or there is reasonable ground to believe that a felony has been committed, any person without a warrant may arrest another whom he has reasonable cause to believe is guilty of the offense and detain them until a warrant can be obtained. That's not the code. That's not what I'm looking for. That's citizen's arrest. I don't want that. Where's it at? We'll find it. Is it Ohio Terry law? No, that's stop and frisk. That's too many laws. I'll be here all day trying to find this thing. Okay, that's. I'm gonna see if I can find it later, but yeah, I don't want to sit here and just put something out there. Waldo Faldo 99. I almost made this a topic, but I changed my mind. I'm way off topic, but can we talk about these pop the balloon dating shows? These folks are shallow as hell. I know I would never in my life go on one of those because if I walk in a room and all the balloons pop, F all y'all. You think I'm about to stand there and then explain myself to y'all? Good riddance. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that show. I think it's too shallow because I feel like it reminds me of MTV's show Next. Remember Next? Where it was like the person would have like 5 or 6 people that were candidates to date them, but they were on a bus, right? And then they would come out of the bus and they'd be on a date. I don't know, they're getting ice cream or something. And then he'd be like, oh, what's your favorite flavor? What flavor do you want to get? And she'd be like, oh, chocolate mint. And he'd be like, next, right? And then the next girl comes out of the bus, right? And, you know, and maybe if she didn't look the part, he would say next before she could even get off the bus. It reminds me of that, but I feel like this is even just more shallow. I get that it's for entertainment. I wouldn't take it seriously as far as like dating. But yeah, folks are really shallow. I've seen some really nice people like get their balloons popped specifically just for their looks. And then when you got, because how the show works is like the person walks out into a room of potential dates, right? And all the dates are holding a balloon. And then if the person is not interested, then they pop their balloon, right? And then the person with the last balloon standing, most likely is the person that gets to date the individual, right? But I've seen a whole lot of folks who walk in the room and they may not be, especially for the men, they might only be 5'5". So as soon as they walk out, right? Or if it's a woman that's coming out, like if she doesn't look the part for some of these, I'm like, dang, y'all didn't even give them a chance to walk out. Like, dang, that's a shady little show. I couldn't go on it, but good luck to those who are on there. But I think it's really fickle, right? And then when you hear the reasons why the people are like, oh, I didn't choose you, it's never anything that carries any substance. It's like, look, it's just, there's a vibe. I mean, you're attractive. I like what you do. You're very respectful. You're blah, blah, but there's a certain vibe I can't, so no, right? Or it's like, you know, speaking of, I saw one clip, which is so funny. He's not my classmate, but he definitely went to Howard. I forgot his name, but this dude I went to school with, he's a few years older than us. I saw him on there, and then he popped the balloon because he didn't like the lady's wig, right? He was like, I don't like the wig that you got on, and I can see the braid under it. So then the girl took the wig off. She didn't have a braid because she had like the low cut with the blonde hair, and she actually looked really good. She even looked better without the hair. And I was like, now you look stupid. You out here just saying anything. So fickle, silly show. Every now and then, I think you do have to balance the ills of the world with some kind of element of entertainment. So every now and then, I will entertain some nonsense. That one, though, I'm taking doses. I can't sit and watch that all day. Makes my head hurt. Haiti has got to be the most mistreated country in history. Like the way they continue to do that population, right? And like I said, we've done some lives where we talk about how even the U.S. plays a role into why Haiti is in the condition that it is economically. Like it's not just France, right? And I saw that they had to like cancel an event out there for safety because they were getting threats. Mm-mm-mm. Y'all are on here fighting. Oh, what up, SF? Hey, I talked about you earlier. Calvin, it was great meeting you at 8th Street Fest. I hope I didn't scare you walking up. Yeah, mind you, so with 8th Street Festival, I had just hung out with my friend Brian, right? And then my friend Whitney was like, oh, I'm coming up there too. So I had just been outside for like 2 hours and it was hot on Saturday. Like sun just beaming down. I'm sweating and everything. And so while I was waiting for Whitney to get there, I had stopped at like the nearby grocery store. There's like a giant, because mind you, like the festival goes like all these different blocks. I think it goes from like 3rd and H all the way down to like 14th and H or something like that. And so I had done all 11 blocks and back, right? Because the Giant was all the way on the other side. And I had just got this little lemonade and I was on the wall waiting for my friend. I'm sweating, hot, dehydrated. And then SF had come up to me. And like, I can always tell when somebody's about to say like they know me from YouTube because everybody just has a certain kind of look because they're trying to see like that is him, right? And so yeah, SF, nice meeting you. I hope I didn't come off like scary because I know I was like hot and one step from passing out. So yeah, that was dope meeting SF. I always like meeting folks all the time. Like Nan Nelson on here, I ran into when I was going to work a few weeks back, right? So it's always cool to meet people when people ain't crazy, right? Somebody said you couldn't pay me to go on that show. Melissa said, yes, I remember Next. MTV used to actually have some good shows back in the day that were entertaining. Like, if I had like some real money, like, you know, 9-figure type money, I would definitely just start a new channel, like an entertainment channel, centered on like music and pop culture and like just life. Like, I'd love to do that, but I ain't got that kind of money, right? We'll just stick to YouTube. All right. Somebody says, I don't know why people take these dating shows seriously. I think what it is with the influence that social media has, a lot of people unfortunately take their cues from what they see and what they consume. Some people, not everybody. Most people with common sense and discernment can decipher between entertainment and reality, but there are others who don't. And certain things just become the reality, especially when you're talking like younger demographics. The hardest thing when I was working with the kids, especially in the last few years, was the influence of like TikTok and crap was really doing a number on like my teens because they were starting to make choices where I'm like, I need y'all to be for real here. Like, what are you doing this for? And they give you their reasoning is because everybody wanted to be viral. Everybody wanted their moment. And it's like, that's fine, but I don't want you guys compromising yourselves or compromising who you are because you're trying to get a certain element of attention. Because understand, if you compromise who you are for mass attention, right, that attention is going to come, but they're not there because of who you are as a person. They're there for whatever it is that you have done, right? And then that is going to be what defines you. And the minute you go against that, people jump ship, right? So be really careful with like the kind of things that you want your name attached to. And they be like, oh, here, Mr. Michael go. And they be like, you got some nerve. You got a whole YouTube channel. I'm like, excuse me. All right, man. Bom, bom, bom. Somebody said, Calvin, did you see the Trump activist Corey DeAngelis with the anti-LGBT homophobia caught doing gay porn? Well, I mean, honestly, the weirdest thing is like a lot of times the folks who be the loudest against a whole bunch of things are usually the main ones locked into it. Every time I go on Twitter, I always see a story about some random preacher that has been caught inappropriately with a child or somebody under age. Every time it's always like the most right-wing extremists, and they always get caught up in some wild inappropriate stuff with minors. I'm like, every freaking time. That's why sometimes when I see people that go so hard against certain things, I'm like, okay, we'll see how that moves. Room Raiders, I remember that show. That was the show where they judged the people based on their rooms. And you know what was trifling on that show? When they pull out that black light, the black light to kind of see what you could capture. I used to like, woo, that show used to tell everybody's business. Yeah, there were some fun shows back in the day. I used to watch all that crap after school. Yeah, MTV, VH1, BET, those were some good years when they actually had programming, right? Lots of cool things. I really like Pimp My Ride. I used to always want all the cars that they had. I used to think it was so cool. Like Pimp My Ride was one of my favorite shows. I liked MTV Cribs, even though all the rappers used to be corny because every rapper had a Scarface poster or a Godfather poster in their room. I'm like, do all of y'all got the same poster? Every last one of y'all? Really? Yeah. Let's see. Somebody said, can't believe I used to sit there and watch The Bachelor, Bachelorette. Now, I've never watched that show, honestly. I never have seen that one. I have seen, what is it? It's one of the newer ones, but I don't know what it's called. Oh, the Never Ever Mets or Never Have Mets, whatever that one was. That was the one with the people that had been dating online for years and had never met in person, and then they put them all in the house to see if they could become a couple. I did binge on that one. That one wasn't too bad. Avocado Queen, Calvin Michaels. A lot of times people tend to confuse race with nationality. For example, what race is someone who is Mexican? Well, we know that nationality is Mexican, but I think with Mexican, like in the same way that, like, let me backtrack. So if you're talking to somebody who's Mexican, there are so many different elements within what they could be. We have Black Mexicans, right? There are Black Mexicans that are there. There are Mexicans that have indigenous lineage. And as far as like Native American, there are Mexicans that are 100% European, and some white folks that speak Spanish. So it kind of varies. I think it goes back to, again, like you were saying, that conversation of nationality versus race versus ethnicity, right? It's the idea of kind of like the blanket statements for some groups don't work because some groups are represented by so many, right? Tykel Williams, what's up? Calvin, do you think a new Jackson's album will do because it has been in the works since the late 90s? It's supposed to have Michael's vocals, and it's supposed to come out with their 2025 8-part documentary. I think for the Jacksons, the cool thing about that family is that, because there are a handful of superstars within the family, there are folks that are always going to support whatever they have, right? So I think for them, if there's a project that has anything with Michael on it, people will buy it, at least the diehard fans. I don't see this being an album that's going to be a top seller and sell millions of copies, but I think it will be something that will help them pay bills, right? So we'll see. I think the documentary will help. And if they want to still continue to tour, I know Tito's just passed, God rest his soul. I think that kind of helps to elevate the opportunities that will come. The Jacksons, as far as the brothers, have been kind of touring on and off for like the last decade. So I do feel like a documentary or reality show would help them. And we've talked about this years ago, where I said for a lot of artists, reality shows help to kind of reboost and reignite careers. I always think of Monica, where you remember The Makings of Me comes out in 06, 07. It's 06. It doesn't really do what it's supposed to do, right? Seeing how successful After the Storm was in the previous albums. And then she has the reality show, and everybody kind of sees the process of her making the Still Standing album. So by the time Still Standing comes out, it's received a lot better than The Makings of Me, right? And, she has some top 10 R&B singles, like Everything to Me and Love All Over Me. And I think people seeing the process of her going through what she went through at the time, because, she had the kids were little at the time. People seeing the experience of being a working mother in entertainment and having toddlers who want you to stay home. They don't want you to go on the road, right? There's a scene I always remember where Rocco starts crying because Monica has to leave. So I think stuff like that connects with people. I know we just finished whacking Diddy, but even making the band, I think the reason why a Danity Kane or the band was so massive was because, or successful at least, was because everybody saw the process of their journey. I know when Making the Band came out with the band, we used to be on like 8 and 9 ways on the phone. Like, I would call like one or two of my friends, I call one friend and then they three-way another person and then three-way another person and three-way another person. And before you know it, it's like 9 or 10 of us on the phone, all watching Making the Band at the same time, watching them go and walk for the cheesecake, right? And then somebody messes up the whole line because somebody accidentally had to hang up because their mama needs the phone. And then we lost 3 people. And we're trying to figure out how to get everybody back on. So everybody just hang up and start over. And then everybody starts over. And you try to call some folks. And then after you think you got everybody, you're still missing 2 people. You got to do it all over again. Y'all haven't lived if you did not grow up before social media and smartphones. I'm telling you, life was a different experience. Okay, I'm about sick of this chat jumping, man. I am going to write a letter to YouTube. I'm going to write a letter. I need you to have it together. Thank you, Black Queen. Says your YouTube channel has impact and substance. Look, I don't be trying to piss people off. I just be trying to say how I feel. All right? You ain't always got to agree with me, but I just understand I'm always coming from a place of authenticity. All right? Silent Library is a funny one. I did like that show. That was a little bit later. I wasn't really watching MTV as much by then, but I do remember that one. Black Queen said they got caught, not caught up. There you go. True Life is good. I like True Life too, Melissa. The, the one that always made me laugh is one where it's like my mom is too sexy, or like my mom wears sexy clothes too much, and I felt so bad. It was this girl who just couldn't stand her mom because her mom had like these really huge, like, you remember this is when breast implants were really, really popular with white folks. Like her mom had these big, like, these had to be like E's, just massive. And I remember the girl would be mad because her friends were all boys, and the boys would always come to her house, not for her, but because they want to see the mom. And so it's like the girl is there with the male friends that are there. These are teenagers. And then the mom comes in like, who wants pizza? And she has this little tank top with these little strips that just barely cover. And the girl's like, Mom, oh my God, you're so embarrassing. I was like, that. I felt so bad. Because could you imagine, like, Mom? All right. Teen Mom probably came with the writer's strike in the 2000s. I think it did. I want to say that's about 07, 08, which would have been around that time. Teen Mom, I think, still comes on. I didn't watch that one as much, but my mama likes that show. My mom is catching up on a lot of shows and stuff because she got like Netflix and all that. So she's always like binge watching shows from 10 and 15 years ago, and then wants to talk to me about it. And I'm like, I don't remember watching that one, but okay. So she likes Teen Mom. She always be talking about, and she don't like the way Janelle talks to her mama. So I gotta go back and see who Janelle is. Oh yeah, the Michael Jackson biopic is coming out in the winter 2025. I'm excited to see that one. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they do it right. Somebody said, anybody remember Also Crispy from Making the Band? I do, or not Making the Band. She was from the TLC show. What was that? Are You the Girl? That's what she was from. I don't know where she's at. I don't know. That was an interesting show, though. Lance Bass says Diddy told Justin to leave in sync. Okay. Yeah. I would have never been able to make it in a band because you ain't about to go solo on me. We in this together. If you going solo, I'm going solo too. I'm gonna be petty and make sure my album comes out first. But all right, let's see. Somebody said, I was just about to say that, Tykel Williams. Somebody said it would be interesting to see T-Boz and Chili doing another reality show. I don't know why they never. I feel like the two of them are funny together. They kind of have a synergy that's really entertaining. Or if they didn't do reality, I wish they would have kind of jumped more into like acting. I enjoy seeing them on the sitcoms they were on. So I think they were always really funny. Even with the Are You the Girl show, the funniest, the best parts of the show were T-Boz and Chili in the car just driving to see the different contestants. That was the best part of the show because they're just acting a fool. Hilarious. I just always remember when they went to that restaurant and there was the guy with the Jamaican accent, and T-Boz didn't think he was really from Jamaica or whatever. And so they asked me if he was from Jamaica. He was like, oh yeah, I'm from Jamaica. She was just like, okay. And then they made up a town. They're like, let's make up a section of town and see if he knows it. So they're like, okay, we'll say Kingston, but we'll make up a town or a neighborhood called Tinstown, right? So then the waiter comes back out there and they're like, you said you're from Jamaica. What part? Oh, he's like, oh, I'm from Kingston. And they're like, oh, okay. Have you been to Tinstown? And he was like, I've heard of it. I haven't really been to that side. As soon as he left, the way they were looking like, see, you better Jamaica your ass on up the street to Jamaica Queens. That was a funny show. I died. That was my show. TLC used to be my group back in the day. All right. Let's see. If there's one thing we're gonna do on these lives after we finish cussing at everybody, we're gonna always end up talking pop culture and music every time. End on a high note. Spanky Duke said, you came through like a warrior when you didn't knee-jerk into protective mode, but stood on facts, even though you were Ultimate Janet fan. I was trying to be fair and balanced. That's why I don't know why folks was trying to whack me. They're like, well, whatever. Glad somebody caught it. Let's see. Calvin, what's your favorite 90s talk show? Ricky Lake episodes are on YouTube and are cringe. Ricky Lake was okay. Phil Donahue was my favorite show from back then because Phil Donahue, and he just died too. But Phil Donahue, like, actually had real topics and real discussions. One of my favorite just episodes of anything ever, and you guys should really watch it because I think it really speaks to just the conversation of blackness in America even today, because a lot of what was being said then was still so relevant. Is there's a Phil Donahue episode called "The Subject Is Race," and this is the episode where there's a panel of all these black activists. So it's Sister Soldier, it's Cornel West, it was the then mayor of DC at the time, it's all these different people, and to me, you know how, like, on social media right now, you have a lot of different groups that are always fighting and clawing each other. Like, FBA and ADOS and all of them are always at it about whatever, right? It's almost like watching that in real time with people that are not on social media, like watching everyone try to figure out what is the best method for fixing the problems that exist within Black America. But it's such a great episode because it really just shows that people have been doing the work for years. And unfortunately, we still keep ending up in the same cycle. So that's one of my favorite, just any talk show episodes. Let me make sure I'm giving you the right title so y'all don't just be looking up the wrong thing. Because that moment when Sister Soldier and Cornel West went at it, and when Sister Soldier was saying, she was saying a piece specifically where, they were talking about the conversation of like good white people. And she was saying the piece that I have concerns about is like when it comes to like something like abortion, they come out in droves in the thousands to protest and push for legislation and vote against things. But then when it comes to like, violence against Black people by the police, there's silence, there's nothing. So like, I want to meet these good people or something like that. And it stemmed from the idea, because I think Cornell was saying something more about like building coalitions with everybody. And Sister Soldier's kind of like, I get that, but we don't really have a whole lot of anything. So we're all these good white people, something like that. And there's a part where Cornel West is like, well, maybe that's all we can get. And Sister Soldier said, no, I don't work with all I can get. I said, here we go. And then she just went, man, that was a time. Let me see. Phil Donahue. Let's see if I can find it. I just want to make sure I got the right episode. Oh, The Issue of Race. That's what the episode is called. That's a dope episode. Other than that, as far as talk shows, the Oprah show actually used to be good in the 90s before it kind of shifted and the audience changed. When she used to actually have like real people on there, that used to be a cool show to watch. I'm trying to think, because most of the time if I was watching a talk show, it was because my grandma had it on TV or my mom had it on TV. I wasn't really one to go and watch the talk shows like that. Forgive or Forget. I used to like that one with Mother Love. That was the one where you pissed off with your cousin because they crashed your car and won't pay you back your $500 deductible, right? And so like you're mad at the cousin wants your forgiveness. So they go on the show and ask Mother Love, can you help? And that show is like, okay, well, if Cousin Michael forgives you, when we open this door that we have on the stage, he's going to be there. If not, there's going to be a black curtain and Cousin Michael's going to have a video waiting for you as to why he is not forgiving you, right? And so then the cousin will go there and stand in front of the door and Mother Love will be like, okay, let's see that door. And they would open that door and then Cousin Michael ain't there. It's a black curtain, right? So then the other cousin is boohooing and crying. And they're like, we have a special message from Cousin Michael. Then here comes Cousin Michael on the screen. F you owe me what you owe me. You know you wrong. Like, boy, that was a show. I used to like that one. All right. Let's see. Calvin, have you seen it? What up, Nan? I was just talking about you earlier. I don't know if he was on here yet. Calvin, have you seen the trailer for Ryan Coogler's new film Sinners? It looks really good. It might be a period piece with mostly black cast fighting vampires. It looks really cool. I haven't seen the trailer, but I did see the poster, right? I need to go and actually still watch the trailer. But I like everything that Ryan Coogler has done thus far. So I definitely will always support all of Ryan Coogler's projects. Left Eye can never be replaced, ever. And very true. I think that's why the Are You the Girl show rubbed people the wrong way, because initially with the marketing, it came off as if the new member was going to be a permanent member. And TLC was saying, no, they're just going to get an opportunity to perform a song and a single with us, and that's it. But it wasn't received initially very well. And I think it made people look at T-Boz and Chili real sideways at first. And then also Crispy later down the line was saying like, yeah, I'm mad. I thought they were going to have me going and doing shows, and we released this song, had that one performance on the TV show, and then I never heard from them again. But yeah, Left Eye Can't Be Replaced. That's a group there that just had a magical chemistry where it worked perfectly with the three of them. I do still like the 3D album. That's why I did a whole video on it. I still thought it was a nice album. The album that came out afterwards, TLC, was okay. It had a few songs I liked. I liked Start a Fire and Joyride. I even liked the song American Gold. I thought the lyrics were corny, but I liked the melody of the song. So it had some okay stuff. Jenny Jones, FF. I remember Jenny Jones. What made me, well, you know what I like more though? I like Mo Collins on Mad TV when she used to make fun of Jenny Jones because she had Jenny Jones's voice down. That crap used to be funny. That episode they had where it's Jenny Jones and Laura Bush on Mad TV, that was a funny episode with Deborah Wilson in the audience. That was hilarious. Oh, I forgot about Sally Jesse Raphael. She had a pretty good show. I feel like her show was kind of similar to what Phil Donahue was doing on his. Let's see. Good night, Kira. What else we got here? Did I see about Naomi Campbell and the charity scandal? I just saw something where they were saying she was banned from something. They were saying the amount of money being raised wasn't matching with what was being given out. I got to still look at the article. The cool thing about having the channel is you guys always send me everything you find. And so like when I do these lives, the cool thing is I don't even really have to like go and dig for topics because I literally can just go to Twitter or Instagram and check all my messages. And you guys have sent me all these articles that you want me to cover. And then what ends up happening is I'll draw this whole list. And a lot of times there's like 30 topics and I try to cut it down to about 8 main topics and then a few fluff topics. And most of those come from what you guys have already kind of sent me. So that's what I always kind of like, that you guys kind of like send stuff. Because sometimes, listen, trying to run a YouTube channel and have the podcast. There's a new episode next week, by the way. The YouTube channel, the podcast. I was recording 2 albums at the same time. We were doing a movie. I told you I'm doing a mentoring thing right now. If anybody's interested in hearing about that, and still having a 9 to 5, and then still somewhat having a social life. It's hard sometimes to kind of keep all this going. Sometimes you're just exhausted. So simple things like people sending me different stories helps this process to be smoother. Don with the click said, I stand on a formal apology. I don't know what it's about, but I support it. Avocado Queen said, Calvin Michaels, is that episode on YouTube? Yes, it's on YouTube, the Cornell Westchester Soldier. If you go to YouTube and search The Issue is Race, Phil Donahue, and it's like an hour long. Like, it's such a great, man, I wish I was in the audience on that one. That was a good one. Harold, what up, Harold? Forsyth County is a legendary Oprah episode. I think that's the one in 87 or 89, something like that. It's memorable almost 40 years later. Yeah, Forsyth County, the county that was all white and no black folks were allowed. And I think Oprah actually did a follow-up episode years later where they went back to it. That's a good one. That's why I was saying Oprah back in the day had some good episodes when they actually still talk about the real stuff, right? Somebody said, I loved Rolanda. Can I ask you, I do not remember Rolanda. Was that a regional show specific to California? Because I swear I don't ever remember seeing that show, but I've seen so many clips on YouTube, but I can't for the life of me remember seeing that show on TV. The only, unless, I don't know its initial rundown. I know I did not live in America from late 96 until the summer of 99, so maybe if the show came out during that era, that's why I haven't heard of the show. But yeah, I do not remember Rolanda's show at all. Oh, wait. Van Dacia said, too much blood has been shed for just an apology. Okay, this must be about actual political stuff. So never mind. I changed my mind. Yeah, you got to do more than just apologize. Give people their money. Let me see. Somebody said Montel Williams tap dance. His show was okay. He always brought Sylvia Brown. Remember the psychic that was always wrong? Brought her on there. I ain't care for her. And she had like that cigarette voice. They'd be like, am I going to find the love of my life? Well, depending on exactly where you look, you might find. You're like sounding like Patty and Selma from The Simpsons. Like, Somebody said T-Boz and Chili on Joyride. See, I like T-Boz and Chili when they sing and blend together on like the verses. It's something they didn't really start doing to the Fan Mail album, but I always say one song that TLC has that I think is very underrated is Don't Pull Out on Me Yet, the very last song on the Fan Mail album, because it really highlights that they actually sound really good together when they sing. People always try to say that that's a group that couldn't sing, but I feel like there's moments where you really get to see them shine vocally. I think that song is a perfect example. Let's see. Somebody said, bring back and live in color. You know what? I was trying to figure out the other day, which theme song do I like more of in Living Color? They had two of them. And I can't pick which one I liked more. Let's see. What up, Lindsay? What up? Make sure y'all support her. She's one of my favorite people, right? I told y'all she has one of my favorite songs, right? Called Song of Water. Beautiful song. Support her on Spotify, Lenci. That's one of my road dogs. Great time, Calvinites. I'll catch y'all on the next live. Calvin Proud. Keep it shining. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. So yeah. Let's see. Raynette said, it's been said that nonprofit jobs are the most toxic jobs for Black women. Hey, listen to my podcast when I start talking about working at the center and how terrible they were trying to do Ava. Man, nonprofits are a lot of work. Real Black YouTube channel has the full episode, the Donahue episode. That's one of my favorite channels too, because they got all the good stuff. Shout out to Angel Haven too. She subscribed here too, but like Angel Haven be uploading all the good clips like in relation to music. So yeah, I love all the channels that like try to archive and post stuff from way back when, right? Okay, somebody said, Piscean Beauty said, we got Rolanda in Maryland. It wasn't for long. So I'm gonna have to look up what went on with that show because I don't remember it at all. Okay, so it wasn't just limited to California. It's because somebody said they got it in Mississippi too. Somebody said, Montel, is that the one that got his face busted with the chair? No, that was Geraldo. That was when Geraldo was trying to be messy. You done put all them crazy Klan members on the skinheads on the show, and then boy, Autumn was throwing shit. He got hit with that chair and broke his nose on. And I think that was a live episode too. Stellar Avenger, I remember this. She told these parents that their kidnapped daughter was dead, but she was alive. And there was a woman on there who, again, another situation, and this is about Sylvia Brown that used to be on the Montel show, a woman who was like looking for her daughter when in reality she had killed the daughter, right? In the audience and still asking questions. I'm like, see, okay. Somebody said, in regard to this in Living Color opening, somebody said the second one. Somebody said the first one. Because I like the, because the first one, I forgot which one. I think the first one is you can do what you want to do in Living Color. I love that. But that other one was smooth. You can do what you want to do. I used to like that. Hey, I might play that after I get off this live. What a time. Folks missed out. I'm sorry. If you weren't around for certain things, I'd be feeling bad. This would not be the time I want to grow up as a teenager because ain't nothing going on. Somebody said A Different World, the first one. The favorite theme song, I ain't gonna lie. My favorite Different World song season was it might have been Aretha's. I like Aretha's. Even though I did like the New Jack Swing one for the last season. That was fun too. But that Aretha one, it's something about Aretha. Good old Aretha. Yeah, can we bring theme songs back? The shows need theme songs again. That's why everybody's mad. Okay, everybody's mad at everything. You need some happy songs to sing. Like I think back to like there's certain shows where I don't even remember ever watching an episode, but I know every word of the theme song. Step by Step is one of them. recently started trying to watch some episodes to see if I remember any of them, and I don't. But that Step by Step theme song, I used to tear a hole into that one. That was my song. That one went in. You know, Step by Step with Suzanne Summers and them. That was a good theme song. Family Matters, of course. I don't really care for Family Matters to show up. It's kind of corny, but I love the theme song, right? My Hanging with Mr. Cooper, the theme song with In Vogue, one of my favorites. That could have been a real song. What else? There's some good ones. You know, Living Single had a good theme song. And even though we hear it so much, it's just cliche to say Fresh Prince. But when you really talk about a theme song, people who have never even seen the show know every word to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? I like the opening to One on One with Shanice and B Slade. That was a good opening. I like both versions of the Smart Guy opening. I like the Moesha opening. Half and Half had a really good one with Melody Daniels. She sang backup for everybody. Whitney, Mariah, everybody. That woman sings down. Sing. What else? We'd be here all day if I started naming the theme songs that used to like be really, really good. So yeah, let's see. Somebody said the Girlfriends one. That was okay. I didn't sing that one. I didn't like that one as much. I know Angie Stone sang it though. She sounds great on it. See, I think I need like I like the theme songs that got some kick to it. Girlfriends was cool, but Girlfriends is like here. You know, I want to jump. That's what I want to do when the songs come on. That's why. Soul Train. Whatever theme song they had in the late '90s. Do you like to dance? And it had the rap on it. Like that right there used to, See, it was like prepping you for when the show came on because you like to see the people dancing anyway, but you could warm up before the show started. Like, take it back. I like the Black Power Media channel as well, Raynette. Dang it. Why she got to be from Washington? So everybody that got some nonsense always be from my home state every time. Like Mary Kay Letourneau, the first teacher to get caught messing with a student, right? My state, of course. Green River Killer, my state. Ted Bundy, my state. Like, it's always somebody crazy. Lord, every time. Freaking DC sniper shooter, my state. Every time. Blah Hoopla number 2 said I liked Reading Rainbow theme song because Shaka tore that up, right? That's how I was learning to read, right? He said butterfly in the sky. I'm like, go on, Shaka, sing. Let's see. Different strokes. We got different strokes for different folks. Yeah, that Step by Step one. That one has some kick to it. I like that. Wow, Dr. Danny B, you took it back. In the Heat of the Night. I'm gonna tell you why I didn't like it. Now, I actually liked the song, but the problem was, and I'm talking about the show. The problem was when we were little at my grandma's house. Like, first of all, I don't know how we had so much fun at my grandma's house because we ain't had no toys. We had like 5 toys to play with at her house. It was my cousin Tiffany had this horse that you could like ride, like it had the wheels. It was that, and mind you, Tiffany was 8 years older than me, right? And so we're playing with her hand-me-down toys. She was like a teenager at this point, but she had this horse. I had I think it's Roby, the robot. Hold on, I'm gonna show you because I just sent this picture to my cousin Brandon the other day, asking him if he remembered this. Where's that robot picture? This is about to show how old I am, y'all. And mind you, the robot was broken. We had broke the arm, so they had the arm taped. Where's that robot? Hold on, I got Brandon. Where you at? I just sent it to you. All right, here we go. Tell me y'all remember this. Okay, this is for my 80s babies, right? Who remembers this? I don't know if you can see this properly. This thing here, this was I'm trying to get in focus. Damn. Okay, whatever. Either way, anyway, get back to my story. Had the horse, had that robot with no batteries and a broken taped arm. It was like this house with shapes where you could open the doors and you'd put the shapes within the respective blocks, like it'd have a star cut out or a triangle cut out. We had that. There was this kind of ball that had these little baskets in it, and you would turn the ball and try to get the little ball inside to land in the baskets, and a few toys from the Happy Meals, right? So we didn't have a lot of toys at my grandma's house. But anyway, me and Brandon would be playing, having the time of our life, and as soon as we heard In the Heat of the Night, we knew that it meant put the toys away, sit down, and be quiet, because grandma was watching her show. and the aunties. And I was like, man, and when you're like 4 or 5, In the Heat of the Night is not an interesting show. Even though I was watching it the other day, for some reason that the nostalgia has been kicking in. I've been watching a lot of like throwback stuff. But yeah, In the Heat of the Night, great song, but it just gives me memories of when we had to sit down and be quiet. Between that and when the stories came on, if I heard that Young and the Restless, I'm like, here we go. Gotta sit down and be quiet. Man, what a time. The innocence of childhood when you didn't know about all the world's problems. A great time to live. Just great. Oh, Goof Troop. Come on, Javonna D. With Phil Perry singing the hook. Goof Troop is one of the best theme songs with the best vocals ever. One of my favorites. DuckTales is another one too, Scotty Films. That was a fun one too. DuckTales. Ooh. Boondocks has a good one too. It's later down the line of rapping, but I like that one. Let's see. Look at y'all. Everybody reliving their childhood. That's So Raven. That's a fun one. I still love the lasagna episode. It's one of my favorites. All right, we're about to wind down and call it a night. Somebody said the Love Boat. The only reason I know the Love Boat theme song is because of Sister Act 2, when what's her name didn't know that Mary had a lamb. Oh yeah, Proud Family is a good one. See, but at that point I'm getting older, so but yeah, that was a good one too. Somebody said I'm approaching midlife. Look, I came out with 2 albums, so I got to lie about my age. So my musical age used to be 28, but I'm gonna drop it down a little bit. So now my musical age is 26. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, come on. Magic School Bus with Little Richard. Tore that one up too. It might get baked into a pie. All right, we got to wrap this up. Y'all have been blowing up my Instagram, and I think what it is people that came to the live later are trying to answer the trivia question from earlier today. So I'll be getting numbers for like the next 3 hours. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego theme song? I hope you're talking about the actual. Well, yeah. There's Carmen Sandiego, and then Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Yeah, I like that one too. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Noonie Pierre, have you talked about your music? I did not. I guess it would make sense to talk about it. Yeah. So when you guys get a chance, if you're into it, if you're not, don't worry about it. But yeah, I did drop 2 albums Friday of last week, which is really cool. They've been my labor of love. They were 2 things I was kind of quietly working on for like the last 2 years. I have some content coming out. Y'all always know I do like a behind the scenes on everything. So there's a behind the scenes on how I made the music video, and there's a behind the scenes on how I did both albums. Yeah, I am really proud of the work. I think they're my favorite 2 out of my 4 albums. You know, like I said, I self-produce everything. And yeah, I am happy people enjoy it. There's Before Tomorrow and there's After Yesterday. Before Tomorrow is the more upbeat, high energy. Really in mind, I was thinking of like choreographers, because like I said, in the years where I used to still teach dance, the thing we always hated is like when you were trying to come up with routines or something and you needed songs. A lot of times you'd be skipping through everybody's albums trying to find that song that makes you want to say, boom, I'm choreographing to that. So a lot of the songs in the first half of the album are kind of aimed at that. I just try to capture different ways to present up tempos, right? So all the up tempos have their own kind of life going. And then as the album, of course, gets to the end, it kind of slows down and cools. I do that with every album, but it doesn't cool and get boring. The songs just evolve into a different space. And then the After Yesterday album is the more adult contemporary grown folks album. So yeah, I enjoyed working on both. Tons of songs that didn't make the albums because I took so long to do them. You kind of have songs that you swap out for other ones, but we'll talk a bit more about it. I am still possibly hosting an event that would be open to everybody, but my plate is so full. I'm having a hard time scheduling it because I don't have any free weekends for like the next 4 weekends. So we'll figure that out. If I do have something, I will happily share it, and it will actually be open to everybody. So we'll see. But I really am relieved to have released those projects finally, because I felt like I was working. It was feeling like they were never going to come out because I kept you never know when you're finished. And then it didn't help that I got sick in the summer because the albums were supposed to drop at the end of August. But then I got all super sick for like a month, and I still needed to submit the final masters for After Yesterday to the studio. But I couldn't do that until I made sure that I went through every track and made sure everything was cleaned up and all the notes and stuff were right. And so it just pushed us behind. So it's a lot of work, but it was cool. It was cool. It was cool. So let's see. Somebody said the Arthur theme song. Every day when you're walking down the street. I like that one too. Somebody said, can you show the cover art, if any, please? I don't know what you're talking about. Is that my album? You gotta, Loretta Banks, you gotta give me, I don't know if that's my album or somebody else. Let's see. Thank you, Harold. Look, Harold been riding with me since the first album. I remember he said he liked my song Fast Lane, which I actually want to go back and re-record. But I really want to go back and clean up my first album, but it's fine. I think it's a great way to kind of show the progress over time. Each album gets better. Let's see. And honestly, y'all should thank my godmom that there's 2 albums, because it was only supposed to be 1. And then she pulled me to the side. She's like, listen, I like your music, and because you have like this really, you have a softer voice and it's like a lighter tone. Sometimes I just want to hear something that's like here. When I put on your stuff, I got to get hit by lasers and percussion and all this. Where the smooth stuff at? And I was like, oh, okay. So then I started making like songs that were a bit more adult contemporary, but they didn't mesh well with what was there. That's how we ended up getting 2 albums. Because for those who've actually listened to both, like the first 2 songs I did for what would have just been the 1 album was Rush, which is the very last song on After Yesterday, and Chasin', which is like number 3. And the 2 of them don't mesh, and So Good. And the 3 of them don't all mesh together. So it's like, these belong on different projects. So that's how we ended up getting 2 albums. Yeah. Yeah, my godmom, I love her because she will tell you to your face if she don't like something, right? Yeah, so technically I had her in mind when I made the second album, as far as like something that she could play for herself. All right. Let's see. Leon versus Noah. If you could have any feature, who would it be and which song? If it's out of my music, what I always wanted to do, it never happened. I wanted Slick Rick on a remix of my song Addicted from the hardcover album. I really wanted that, but it never quite happened. I don't have that kind of pull yet. As far as these albums, if I did a collaboration, I would have had Janelle Monáe on my interlude Frenzy, because Frenzy is inspired by her song. God, what is that song? Where she's saying, I don't know what it's called, but she's saying like, I can't believe love just passed me by. The energy of that song is where I got the idea for Frenzy from. What is that song? Love just passed me by. I don't remember the name of the song, but actually, I'm gonna find it right now. Give her credit where credit is due. Janelle Monáe. What is that song called? It's called, oh, My Favorite Nothing. That's what it's called. That's what inspired that. That would have been dope to have somebody like her. But like I said, I make music just because I like it. Some folks be thinking they're gonna get a one up on me and be trying to whack my stuff. But it's like, I make music as a hobby because I just enjoy it. And that's it, right? So I enjoy it. And I don't even bombard y'all with it either. I just drop albums and leave y'all alone. All right. If I could go on tour with anybody, who would it be? Right now, Anderson .Paak. I actually want to go see his show too, by the way, but I don't know if I'll be able to go. I'm kind of busy. But yeah, probably Anderson. Let's see. Somebody said, I am not naked on one of my album covers. I was just showing a little piece of chest. That's it. Just a little piece. Ain't showed too much. All right. Which is crazy. I'll leave that story alone. It was so funny when we shot that. I shot both covers in Chicago. And when we did the shoot with the blue suit, it was at this hotel. And mind you, I only have the blazer on. There's nothing else under it. And it was so cold because I think we shot in March, man. And I remember we were going and doing the different locations in the hotel. So I had to walk all around the hotel with with just this blazer and all of this out and a few little chains. It was the most awkward thing because everybody's like walking, looking at you crazy, and it's you and this camera crew. But yeah, it was freezing outside, and then we had done some shots outside. I don't even think we used any of those. It was too cold. I was in there like shaking, right, freezing. Let's see. And mind you, the only thing, my other beef, even though I guess it don't matter now since I lost that 20 pounds I'm trying to get back, is I shot that album cover right before I became a gym head. Like, I wish I would have shot it. Because mind you, I shot those covers in 2022. Like, both projects were supposed to drop in 2022, but they got put on pause when I did Pull Over So I Can Hit You because I had to dedicate a lot of time to executive producing that. And, you know, me living in DC but doing a movie in LA is a lot of work. So, the music just had to be on pause for like a year, right? So I thought I was going to be dropping that project in the summer of 2022, and then you go and you start adding songs and taking songs away, and it's a whole lot of stuff. But anyway, so it would have been nice if I would have shot it once I was a gym head and I actually had a chest. You know, that cover, I got the bird out, the bird chest, and now I got a bird chest again, but I'll get it back. I think I gained about 3 pounds since we last talked, so we're making progress. Give me a little bit more time. It's going to be a lit summer. I'm going to be fine again. All right. Somebody said, let me know if you need a black composer. Well, I do. I produce all of my stuff. I don't know how I work with another producer, but it could be an idea. I mean, I'm not coming out with no projects no time soon, so it's going to be a minute. Thank you, Loretta Banks. All right. All right. Let me come back. Why's my chat moving? Hold on one sec. Okay. Let's see where we at. I like the cover. And honestly, I don't remember what subscriber it is, but see, sometimes y'all be trying to cook me sometimes, but I be listening. I don't remember what comment it was, but it was when I had the last album. And somebody was like, you need better pictures. Like, it's cheapening your brand. I was like, fine. So I went and got a photographer because y'all know I'm a one-man show because the first 2 albums I did the covers myself, right? When I did Symphonic Euphoria, I set the timer on the camera, ran to the window and posed and ran back and caught perfect shot. Same thing with the hardcover. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, that's a great question. What's my favorite song on these albums? Oh, they change. Because the thing is too, like, some songs on that album are as new as like 2 months ago, and others are as old as like 2.5 years ago. On Before Tomorrow, my favorite is Sweet Home. I love that song. I want to do a video for it, but I need to actually do a video for a song on the other album first. Sweet Home is probably my favorite. Sweet Home and Afraid, which is interesting because these are the songs at the very end of the album during the slowdown. So that's On Before Tomorrow. Those are my 2 absolute favorites at the moment. And I do like the Play Cool interlude a lot. I should have made it a full song. On After Yesterday, my favorite is Sometimes. I kind of want to do a video for that one too. And Rush. Those are my 2 favorites. But I mean, it's hard because by the time I say the albums are ready, I'm in love with every song. I don't put anything out that I'm not crazy over. So like every song on both projects I like, including the interludes. And most of the time the interludes were intended to be original songs, but we needed to cut down the length of how long the album would be. By the way, because folks be like, your albums are too long. These 2 are shorter than the first 2. Just want y'all to know. All right. Somebody says, sending love to the people affected by the hurricane. Yes, I hope everything is well over there because that's scary, especially those who are in the surge areas. Stay safe, people. Calvin, do I ever come to Minnesota? I don't think I've ever even been to Minnesota. If I have, it might have been a layover in Minneapolis, but I don't know anybody there. I have no reason to go unless I go and see Prince's house. Man. Calvin, would you also release instrumentals of these? That is an idea. Normally I use all my instrumentals in the podcast, but that could be a thing. I have no problem putting the instrumentals out there. So that could be a thing. Let's see. You have a website? I do. It's calvinmichaels.com. To be fair, I never officially launched it or told everybody. I did a soft launched last year. But yeah, I got a website, and it's actually a great website. It has everything on it. So anything with music that I'm doing, anything with the podcast, updates about the movie, behind the scenes. I always talk about how I work for a magazine. It has some of the articles and the interviews that I've done. So I interviewed Nelson George some years back. That's on there. I interviewed Dawn Porter. She's the person that directed the Luther Vandross documentary that's coming out. I have an interview with her specifically about her documentary called Trapped from some years back. What else is on there? There's a bunch of different things on there. Any press that I've done or podcasts or any other shows I've been to, there's a segment for that. There's a segment for the book club. There is a segment for my favorite charities that I support. My main one is Joyful Hands, right? And then in addition, my other favorite is Guns Down Friday. What else is on there? You know, links to the YouTube channel. It has playlists. I got a whole bunch of playlists that I've added. So I think the main four that you guys know are like the R&B Gems playlist, the Cool Down playlist, New Jack Swing playlist, Funk Party playlist. But there's some new ones I added on there. The ones called like the Mood Shifter, Mood. Like it makes you feel good. Not mood like we about to freak it down, but like make you feel good when you get up for work type of thing. And a few additional ones that are on there. Let's see. Somebody said, "Amen. My body's naturally skinny. Mine is too. It's just, I mean, fortunately, because I got older, you just slowly start getting your grown people weight. But I'm always going to be somebody that's smaller framed. But I just would like to look a little bit better in my smaller frame, which is why I'm pissed I lost that 20 pounds. Damn it, I was fine this summer. I was looking good. Couldn't wait to go to the beach. Been working hard. I was in that gym pumping iron for a year, and it all disappeared in 2 weeks, which is crazy. The only thing I like is that my jaw is all chiseled again. I got cheekbones again. My face was starting to get real full. Anyway, let's see. What's your mama's favorite song from the catalog? You know, I don't even know if my mom has listened to it. But what's funny is there's a whole song on there just for her. So she better listen. But of my other songs, her favorite song is Pops from my very first album. I don't even like that song anymore because I don't like the vocal on it. But every time she tells somebody I do music, that's the one she plays. I'm like, can you play something else? Like, but I get it. That's the song I made for her man. So yeah, that was for my daddy, the first song. And then that's why I made July 11th, because I was like, I want to give my daddy a better song. So anyway, with this one, my mom was always like, how come your daddy got 2 songs and I'm still here and I ain't got nothing? I was like, damn, okay, I guess I should give her something. So yeah. When is your best time to create a song? I do most of everything at night. That's why God bless my neighbors, because they got to put up with me. And especially when I was working on Before Tomorrow, all them up tempos, because you know Before Tomorrow is like 13 straight up tempo. Like, oh, I know they used to hate me. Because you know I gotta feel it, right? Some of them songs, especially there's a song called Space in Your Mind. It's just really like doosh, 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 like, man, I know they hated it. But I normally do everything at night. Which also was a challenge. I was glad. One of the benefits of once I stopped working with the kids, as much as I loved them, is I didn't realize how tired my voice would be. Because it's like you're projecting for 8 hours with a group of kids all day, and then you're supposed to come home and record a song. Wasn't flying. And unfortunately, for the majority of the recording session, it was after I started my new role. And so my voice just felt a lot more rested and like warmer. So my range expanded on this project, which was kind of cool. So yeah, there's that. But I don't do like the songs in just one day. There's a whole bunch of like steps. Normally I make the music first, and then I'll have ideas of like a melody, and I'll have my voice note and just kind of hum, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually I'll do the lyrics last most of the time. But every now and then there's like lyrics that are in my head, and I'll do the lyrics first and then do the song. So it just changes. All right, we're gonna wind this down. It's still looking good, Calvin. Thank you. Yes, I like. Listen, please don't call me cocky, but I never liked how I looked until I was about 20 years old. So it's like I'm playing catch up with like learning to love yourself. And then as far as like my physical body, I've never liked how I was built until like last year. So, yeah. But anyway, comes with the territory. Somebody said Pops, okay. No, we can skip Pops. I don't recommend that song. Just go to July 11th instead. I like the production on Pops, but I really want to go back and change the vocal on that so bad. Said Calvin said, "Here, mama, dang." No, it wasn't like that. I still was gonna do something. My mom is my favorite person in the world. I think I talk to her too much and too often, but that's my favorite person. Let's see. Ads and commercial interruptions mean you're monetized. We'll see for how long. That's why y'all see I started branching out. Folks be mad because I'm not on here all the time. I was like, look, I got to start building outside of YouTube just to be ready, because I'm sure there will be a day where YouTube is like, you shaking the table too much. You got to go. So yeah. What song would Calvin remake? Well, a lot of times songs I want to remake, I kind of reference in some of my music anyway. So like, everybody knows one of my favorite songs is the Brothers Johnson, "I'll Be Good to You." And so that's why it's referenced in my song "It Played Us" from the hardcover album. My first music video I did, it's that song. On After Yesterday, the song still, Giving Love, references Teddy Pendergrass, "Close the Door." We don't sing it, but there's, if you've heard it, you'll catch where it comes in at. Which, that's a cool song, by the way. Anyway, the influence behind that song is Tony Braxton's "How Many Ways," TLC "Digging on You," and Teddy Pendergrass, "Close the Door." One of my favorites on that album. That's one of my favorites too. Let's see, Rip Frankie Beverly. Now that's somebody I wish I could sing like. Man, let's see. All right, we need to wind this down. We still on here. Oh yeah, Queen, come on, y'all be. I appreciate y'all for listening. Yes, there's a song, "One Question," that actually references Brandy sitting up in my room. Um, Picture like Janet's "Island Life" meets Brandy sitting up in my room as a song with a hint of Michael Jackson's "Butterfly," like butterflies. Like that's a dope one. That's the one. One of my good friends is like, that's the one you need to do a video for, and they've been cussing me out about it because when they saw that I did a video for "I Want" and "Not One Question," they were pissed. But we'll see. That's a really cool one too. I like all of them. I'm not just selling myself because I made it, but like I said, if it's out, it's because I like it. We have a folder with like 102 songs that didn't make the project, right? There was one song I really wanted to put on, but Before Tomorrow already had too many songs. It was called, well, I didn't even have a name for it yet, but it was a house song that kind of referenced Crystal Waters' 100% Pure Love. And I really, really wanted to keep it, but I was like, something has to, everything can't go on here. And we already had another song that kind of already had somewhat of a house related beat, so I let it go. All right, we got to wind this down. Calvin, did you hear Mariah, Gladys, and Shaka are performing at the American Music Awards, and J Hud is doing a Whitney tribute? Oh, well, now it looks like I'll actually watch it. Thank you for that. That'd be fun to watch. Yeah, that'd be fun. Somebody said Calvin Michaels remake Keith Sweat "Twisted." It was one of my favorite songs back in the day. All right, guys, let's wind this down. What else was I supposed to share? Something else with y'all, and I forgot. Either way, we'll figure it out. Like I said, there's some other content. I said that there's a podcast episode that's supposed to come out next week. Some of you guys have been asking. So, like you guys know, when I do the podcast, I upload an episode to the YouTube channel, but it's not the most recent episode. And I'm talking specifically about the Comedically Hard-Headed podcast, right? YouTube right now is labeling these lives as a podcast. I don't consider this a podcast, but anyway, the Comedically Hard-Headed podcast, there's a new episode that's supposed to be coming out next week. So when I do that, there's going to be an episode that's uploaded to the YouTube channel, but it's an older episode that's a continuation of where we left off in the YouTube world. In the podcasting world, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Music, all of those different things, the newer episode will be on that, right? And by the way, last thing, like I was saying, I took on a mentoring program that I'm doing. I'm helping to raise money for one of the sister centers to my old community center. So if you are interested in supporting that project, because it's pretty much I mentor a teenager for 6 to 8 weeks. And then at the same time, we raise money for their community center, and every dime goes back to their community center. If you're interested, shoot me an email, calvinbmichaels@gmail.com, or you can go to calvinmichaels.com and send a message that way, and I will give you the insight about it. The only thing that I ask, like I said, I'm very protective of the kids I work with and the communities I work in, to understand that this is not the opportunity for you to shoot your shot, okay? Like, this is specifically, there's some things where I'm like, right here, center focus. So with that, when it comes to like the kids or community work, it's that. So please don't use this as your opportunity try to send me some pictures and everything. That's not the time. All right. You do that on Instagram like normal people and Twitter. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Anyway, I'm out, you guys. So like I said, stay safe, stay sane. Everybody who's in the range of the hurricane, please stay safe. Seriously. Anyway, I'm out. And remember to mind your business so that you can age well. And I will see you guys later. Good night.